My wife's ex just died. He left a kid who isn't biologically either of ours. How do I talk to my wife about taking the kid in? So yeah, basically what it says on the tin. My wife, Cara, used to be married to a guy with which she has one kid, my stepdaughter, Charlotte, 9. I've always wanted to be a dad, but I'm unfortunately unable to have kids biologically, so I've been treating Charlotte like my own daughter and showering her with love. After Cara and her ex broke up, he had his son, Levi, 5, with another woman. Levi is not an affair baby. Cara's ex didn't even start seeing Levi's mum until a year after he and Cara got divorced. Last week, Cara's ex passed away in a car wreck. From what I know, Levi's mum won't take him in, and Cara's ex has no close family who will take him in. Levi is currently staying in a foster home, and if no one steps up, Levi will become a ward of this state and enter our state's god-awful foster system permanently. The other thing is that Charlotte loves her little brother so much, and obviously she's devastated about her dad. I think that staying connected with her brother will help Charlotte through the grief, and that staying with his sister will help Levi. The thing is, Cara absolutely loathes her ex. Their split up was on pretty much the worst of terms, and their divorce was the messiest I've ever heard of. She once told me that if it wasn't for Charlotte, she would have moved across the country and never thought about him again. I'm worried that she won't want to take in Levi because of his connection to her ex. I don't know how to talk to Cara about potentially stepping up to take Levi in, or if she might be gravely insulted if I brought this up. I know that Levi is not technically mine or Cara's problem, but he's an innocent child and Charlotte's little brother, and I would feel guilty if I didn't even try to take him in. Edit, since a lot of people have been asking, the reason that Levi's mum can't and won't take him in is because she lost custody a while ago and has no interest in fighting to get it back. I don't know why she lost custody, but I believe she's on the sex offender registry for something quite serious. Oh man, that's heartbreaking for the kids. Let's go to the comments. Don't ask if she wants to take her ex's kid in. Ask if she wants to take her child's brother. No matter how much she hates her ex, her child is half of him. I love Charlotte. She is my daughter. She is half you and half your ex. I cannot in good conscience know that her sibling is out there, most probably living a horrible life. I would like to discuss increasing our family. Be careful. If your wife can't agree to this enthusiastically, you might be setting Levi up for a life that has the potential to be just as damaging as the foster care system, being a child in a home where he is not wanted. Well dude, she is your wife. We're just random strangers on the internet and this is a seriously large decision. I would recommend just talking to her about it and seeing how she feels. Are you even able to take the child? Opie replies, well, I've never been in my wife's position and I was thinking maybe someone with more experience could give me advice. I love my wife, but she can be a bit, let's say, volatile when it comes to anything involving her ex. And yes, we are able to take the kid in. Well, financially at least. Info needed. Did Cara have much contact with Levi prior to the accident? If she did, that might make it a little bit easier, but you also do need to go with that it's Charlotte's brother. Just think how you'd put this and start by admitting to her that she may or may not like the idea, but there is the possibility that she's trying to figure out how to bring it up to you, so think of it as making it easier to say what she wants. I think you're going to do okay. Opie replies, no, she purposefully didn't form a relationship with him so she'd have less attachments to her ex. I actually saw the kid more often than my wife because I handled most of the childcare stuff with my stepdaughter, which included pick-up and drop-off from visits with their dad. I'm curious what your relationship was like with your wife's ex. It seems like you and him had a better relationship than your wife and him. I'm not saying you guys were buddy-buddy. Opie says, he and I were cordial, but if I'm being frank, he was a massive douchebag. My wife and I would rock, paper, scissors sometimes to see who would have to deal with him, lol. Do you think your wife will be able to be a loving parent to Levi the same way she is with Charlotte? Physically taking him in is only the beginning of the journey. Opie replies, knowing my wife, yes, I think she would. She may hate the idea, or she may not, but I don't think she's physically capable of hating a little kid once she gets to know him. That's why she avoided forming a relationship with her ex's kid, I think. She didn't want to get too attached to someone adjacent to her ex, but that's just my speculation, of course. What did the ex do for Cara to divorce him? Damn man, answer. Opie says, the better question is what he didn't do. And is a man not allowed to sleep? He cheated, lied, gaslit her, and they had screaming matches, and during the divorce he tried to keep my stepdaughter away from her. He made things up about her in court to try to serve this end. The only thing he never did was hit her. Geez, he sounds like a piece of work. But ultimately, yeah, the kid shouldn't suffer because of his dad's actions. Let's go to the update. So after reading through as many comments as I could, I was even more nervous than ever about talking to my wife. I was also even more convinced that this was a conversation I needed to have sooner rather than later. I also tried to get more information about Levi's situation and why no one could take him from my wife, and according to Kara, Levi's mum emigrated from another country and doesn't have any family here. One of her ex's parents is in aged care and the other is unwilling for some reason. As for the rest of his extended family, I don't know, and neither does she, but she did say that he's no contact with most of his family and has been disowned by a fair number of them. Someone may reach out in the future, but it seems unlikely. Last night, Charlotte was over at her friend's house for a sleepover, so Kara and I had dinner alone together. I started by bringing up how lonely I thought Charlotte was, and how glad I was that she was feeling well enough to go over to her friend's house. Kara agreed, and I basically got straight to the point by saying how I thought that she'd feel better if she could spend time with her brother, and asked if she might consider taking on Levi as a kinship foster. Kara looked thoughtful for a minute, before tentatively agreeing. We're going to be taking steps to see about taking him in, and at the very least setting up visits so that the siblings can see each other. This is a huge weight off my shoulders, knowing that she doesn't resent a little kid for her relationship with his father, and that she was able to have a rational conversation regarding a topic related to her ex. The last time we had a conversation about him, I'd accidentally used a phrase that her ex used a lot during their fights and she got triggered by it, and she ended up storming out and staying at a hotel for the night so that she could calm down. She's a lovely woman. I know it may not seem like that from my posts, but she really is. She had a really toxic and borderline abusive relationship, which almost resulted in her losing access to her daughter, so I hope that y'all don't think of her as a monster, but as a loving wife and mother with some trauma that she's trying her damnedest to work through, with the support of her therapist and myself. Okay guys, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, great ending all in all, and Opie seems sure that his wife will warm to the kid, and I reckon I'm willing to trust his judgment on this one. What about you folks? Do you think she'll end up loving the kid? Or will it constantly bring up reminders to her? Let me know. Anyway, give me your thoughts and we'll go to another story. Okay, well on the Am I the A-hole subreddit, this one was written by user JazzLikeNose, and it's titled, Would I be the a-hole for leaving the relationship without fighting for it after girlfriend suggested an open relationship? Going to keep it really short without details. I, 27 male, had been together with my girlfriend, 27, for 3 years. Stable relationship and no red flags from my point of view. Last Saturday she asked for an open relationship. Her reasoning was we did not get to enjoy ourselves in the past, and it could help us strengthen the intimacy and love. I rejected it, and she seemed unhappy after that. I'm not going to lie, an open relationship suggestion out of nowhere is a huge red flag for me, and means probably that there's someone else she has in mind already. I've been cheated on in the past and made it very clear that I want a monogamous relationship before being exclusive. Her suggestion made me mental for a few days. I want to break up with her. I do love her, but she opened Pandora's box, and I'm not sure if I can trust her in that relationship. It will not be healthy for both sides. Would I be the a-hole if I leave the relationship without trying to salvage it? I tried saving my old relationship when there were trust issues, and it did not work. I just don't want to harm my psychology struggling. At the same time, I doubt myself because I love her, and it's a 3-year-old relationship. Yep, she planted the seed, and there's probably nothing that's going to stop it from growing. Let's go to the comments. Salvage what exactly? You wanted monogamy, expressed your wishes, and she countered with an open relationship. Dude, there's nothing to salvage. You would not be the a-hole for walking away. You would not be the a-hole. Open relationship suggestions like that out of the blue are usually, as you said, because they've found someone they want to sleep with, or because they've already cheated and they're trying to find a way to make it okay. She is talking straight bullcrap about strengthening intimacy and love. Open relationships are a huge strain on both of those things. Regardless, time to move on. Don't fight for it, just move on to someone you can trust. I'll never understand how sleeping with other people strengthens love. Like, hey, you know what would be amazing for our love life? Not spending it together, lol. Not the a-hole. Yep, granted Reddit is just about my only lens on this issue, but this has never been a success story when the suggestion comes out of the blue in a previously monogamous relationship. What I get a kick out of are the Reddit threads where one partner reluctantly agrees to the other partner's suggestion for an open relationship, but the former winds up having a lot more fun than the latter, and the instigating partner gets bent out of shape and says, let's close the relationship again. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've read a few stories like that, and they're always kind of funny. Okay, on to an update. I made a post 2 days ago about my relationship situation on this subreddit. I want to thank everyone. I took my time reading most of these comments, and there was some really useful advice. I talked to her yesterday and broke up with her. I told her I thought about her proposal and wanted to ask her a question. I basically asked why she proposed going open relationship out of nowhere. She said she heard it from her friends and would like to try it to strengthen our relationship. I asked her if she had someone in mind already. She said no. I thanked her for her answers but stated I wanted a strictly monogamous relationship. Also, I told her how my trust for the relationship was shaken after her proposal and I want to break up with her. I wished her the best and prepared to leave the table. She got angry, a bit too angry at me. She called me insecure and called me every name possible in the book. I left the table quickly after hearing these and went back home. She started calling me, texting me in an angry tone, and I just had to block her. We both live with our families, so the breakup was quickly done. No need to take my belongings from the shared home or anything. There's no problem until here. Today, a friend told me she saw her with a male co-worker the same night and asked me if I knew it. I told her we broke up yesterday, so yes, she definitely had someone in mind. It doesn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Maybe it's because I was ready for such a thing. Maybe my mentality changed after the last time I got cheated on. My mindset is all about moving on and not worrying about things I cannot control anymore. She had been cheating during the relationship or not, I do not care to know. All I can do is to move on and live my best life. I have a trip to South Korea this month and I want to enjoy it. Thanks for all the advice, Reddit. Take care. Yeah, I mean, it probably didn't hurt as much because he was the one that ultimately broke up with her in the first place, so he was already ready for the grief that came with that. And also, yeah, I think he kind of quietly predicted the fact that she did have someone in mind. I mean, a proposal like that would rarely happen out of the blue. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one, and we'll go to another story. Okay, we're jumping over to the True Off My Chest subreddit. This one was written by user Pale Ad, and it's titled, I listened to my brother, and I shouldn't have. I met my ex-wife Kelly when we were in college when she asked me for some notes one day. We had been sitting next to each other for weeks without a word until then. We started dating and got serious pretty quickly, which upset my younger brother Robert. Robert was about 16 when I started dating Kelly, and you could tell that he had a bad crush. She was always nice and took it in stride. After Robert left home and got into college, I let him move in with us. Kelly and I had been together for about 3 years, living together for 2. We all had a good relationship. Kelly started complaining things were misplaced soon. One of her earrings would disappear, her panties, sometimes it was socks. She was under a ton of stress, changing medications, so we both chalked it up to her ADHD giving her an issue, until one day I caught my brother with a pair of her missing panties. We found everything he stole. We kicked him out and he goes to live with my parents again and begs for forgiveness and decides to go to therapy. It takes about 5 years, but we all decide it was water under the bridge, Kelly included. Robert had a hard life growing up. He said it was all acting out. Late 2022, I received an anonymous email that Kelly was cheating on me. He knew dates she was out of town, names of co-workers, and everything. They gave me no photographs, but knew enough details that I was sure they were telling the truth. Kelly fought me on it, denied it, begged for marriage cancelling, but cheating is a solid deal breaker for me. Robert came to stay with me as my emotional support while Kelly was there. Kelly had asked me to get him to leave multiple times, stating that he was watching her and making her feel uncomfortable, but all I said were things I'd rather not repeat about her not being trustworthy. The day she left last April, she said to me that it was going to turn out to be my pervert brother, and that if it is, she hopes I feel every ounce of pain I just put her through. My brother has apparently been racked with guilt and confessed last weekend. He told me in front of our parents. I couldn't say anything. I just walked out and went home. I turned my personal phone off, and I've just been walking in a daze. I go to work, come home, I watch TV, and I go to bed. I can't tell you what I've eaten for the past week, or what I've watched. My dad came by to talk to me tonight, and he wants me to talk to my brother, tell him that it's going to be okay and we can work through it. I turned on my personal phone for the first time to see hundreds of texts from my brother. I just want to reach out to Kelly and beg for forgiveness and ask her if we can start over. Oh my god, what a nightmare. Like, fair enough if Kelly doesn't want to go back with him, but I would not be talking to my brother after that. No way. That would take some serious strength and forgiveness I'm not sure I have. What about you guys? Okay, let's go to the comments. Not to kick you when you're down, but your soon-to-be ex-wife warned you, and it sounds like your parents support him still, even though he's blown up your relationship twice and terrorized your wife for years. You all made choices, and now you're going to have to live with them. You should tell her she was right, so she can have validation, but don't expect understanding, forgiveness, or reconciliation. She's better off away from you and your toxic family, especially that psycho stalker brother of yours. You should have trusted and listened to Kelly. She's better off, and you should not bother her. Well, you'd best go powder your poor brother's ass, make him feel better, and it's going to be okay, and keep feeling sad and in a daze. You'd already caught him with her panties and other stolen items. Why you wouldn't believe her the second time is beyond me. Leave Kelly alone. She doesn't need anyone's lame apologies. It took you 30 minutes to throw away what you had, and a year for your brother to admit what he did. Yeah, spot on. She's his wife. He should be listening to her first and foremost, and believing what she says. Okay, let's go to an update, see what he does. I ventured on Reddit about finding out that my brother faked that my wife had an affair on a business trip. I'd been in a daze since I found out. I kept reading that everyone said leave Kelly alone, but I sent her an email to where we'd been communicating about little things that popped up, and then I went to bed. I apologized. I told her that I know I can't mend things, but that she was right and that Robert was out of my life, and probably my parents too. I didn't expect an email back, but I received one, and it was massive. It was filled with a lot of personal things that I don't want to repeat. She said she understood the desire to listen to that email, but that she wasn't even able to defend herself, that I just gave her time to get out, and then immediately moved Robert into our home, where she watched him intentionally keep us from communicating as she was forced to leave. She said she would have done anything, let me talk to her co-workers, check her geo-tracking, but Robert kept a permanent buffer, and I allowed it, belittling and mocking her along with him whenever she attempted to talk to me. She thanked me for the closure on this chapter of her life, and she wished me the best, but she asked me not to contact her again, ever. After the year and 3 months she said she had endured, she isn't the same woman I knew. She asked me to set the record straight with any former mutual acquaintances, but she honestly never wants to hear from any of them either, and to tell them so. She told me I poisoned that well when I accused her of what I did, and it was the most bitter and isolating experience she's ever dealt with, and that she genuinely feels nothing for anyone in her former life, including me. She also told me cutting out Robert is a great idea, but don't cut them off trying to get her back or even her good graces because she's moving overseas on a fiancé visa to try things out with her new fiancé. She said they've only been dating 8 months, but she's never felt this way about anyone in her life and that she thinks he might be her soulmate. She told me to learn from my mistakes with her and to find someone to love more than I loved her. It crushed me to see the word soulmate. She used to tell me all the time she thought I was her soulmate. I called my dad yesterday morning after reading the email, and I told him that I'm not going to comfort Robert. He ended my marriage through lies, made me a liar to all of my friends, and isolated and hurt one of the most loving, loyal people on the planet who tried so many times to help him. My relationship with Robert is over, and I told him that if he has a problem with that, my relationship with him is over too. My dad told me he understood truly how bad it was once I broke it down that way. I'm going to put in a transfer request at work tomorrow. I live on the West Coast. Maybe I'll head to the East Coast. I'm going to get a change in scenery, a therapist, and figure myself out. Yeah, there's no way I'd be talking to that brother again after that. And like the ex-wife said, it's a good idea. I mean, what happens if Opie gets into another relationship and his brother's close with them too? I mean, for some people, family is just that. It's family. It's a blood relative. There's nothing more involved. And frankly, the brother sounds like someone you wouldn't want to be around your family in the future. Am I the a-hole for going fishing the day my ex was giving birth? I, male 29, ended a relationship with this woman, Maria, 27, about 1.5 years ago. Our relationship was largely casual, and I made it abundantly clear to Maria that I didn't want a serious long-term relationship. Maria agreed, since we had such wildly different values and beliefs, but after being together for about 11 months, she confessed that she wanted a serious relationship with the prospect of getting married. I declined, as I thought, and still think, we're way too different to start something like that. We continued our relationship for a few more months when Maria brought up marriage and starting a family again. She started saying things like how her family and friends liked me as well, and how we'd be a great fit. At this stage, I decided to break things off with Maria. I felt like we both wanted different things, and it was better if we went our separate ways. Maria was devastated by our breakup and begged me to remain in contact, so I did, and we kept a decently close friendship for the past 1.5 years. Since then, Maria's life has been through a downward spiral. She hasn't gotten into any serious relationships. She's been in many, but they've only lasted 2 months at most, and most of the guys were not very good. This lifestyle has caused a lot of friction with her parents, and she tells me she no longer speaks with them because of it. Maria has also failed out of a graduate school and has struggled to find work before finally landing a job she hates a few months ago. One of the guys Maria was with got her pregnant at some point, and she was scheduled to give birth at some point last week. Leading up to the birth, Maria started calling me a lot, and she seemed very apprehensive. She told me that she was terrified of becoming a mum. I tried to reassure her that she'd make a great mum, visited her several times in the past few months, and helped her out whenever I could. Maria ended up giving birth last week. On the day, I was going fishing with some of my old friends that I hadn't seen in a while. When I found out about the birth the following day from one of Maria's friends, I called her and congratulated her. Maria sounded exhausted, but was happy I called. Later that week, I started getting a lot of messages from Maria's friends telling me how I should have been there since Maria was so afraid. None of her family showed up, and she was hoping I'd come. One of her friends, Katie, 28, was particularly angry. She said that I needed to be more supportive of Maria since she felt alone, and I was abusing the trust Maria had in me. Honestly, I get helping out and being there for friends, but I feel like it wasn't exactly my responsibility. Also, she had 2 of her other friends, Katie and another girl, with her on the day of the birth, so I don't know what I could have added. Am I the a-hole? More context. For those wondering, the father is back in Austria, and there's like a 60% chance he doesn't even know about the kid. All of Maria's friends know he's the dad, but they just refer to him as some a-hole. While I do want to maintain a cordial relationship with Maria, I have no interest in raising her child. Even more context, for those wondering, I knew the baby was supposed to be born last week. He was scheduled for Saturday, but the little guy decided he wanted to come earlier, so was born on Wednesday. I left town Tuesday night and planned on coming back on Friday. The baby was born on Wednesday, and I only found out on Thursday. I called Maria afterwards and congratulated her. I did not make any promises about being there for the kid's birth. Gee, honestly, yeah, it's a bit sad. Sounds like she's staring down the barrel of being a single mum and she's desperately looking for a life partner, and Opie seems to be the closest target. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. Guarantee that she had this fantasy where you bonded with the kid and came back to her. Time to walk away. 100%. OP needed to nix this relationship long ago. If she hasn't already, she's developing some unhealthy attachment, and OP is only enabling the delusion. Dude, she's looking for a daddy. I'd back away from the friendship. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Not your baby, not your business. Poor Maria, but this is not your problem. Block her overbearing friends. Where was baby daddy? Next time one of her friends rips on you, refer them to baby daddy. Not the a-hole, but dude, be real. Maria totally wants to get back together and have you long-term as a husband and father to her kid. Her friends know it, and apparently the strategy of the moment is to guilt, shame and harass you towards a role and relationship that you don't want. It seems like you think you're trying to be a good guy or good friend here, But if your and Maria's hopes and expectations for the future don't match, maybe it's time to rip off the bandage and walk away. Yeah, honestly, my thoughts exactly. Let's go to the update. Before I proceed with my update, I'd like to clarify a few points that have been raised. Many people have been wondering about my statement regarding Maria's values and beliefs not aligning with mine. By this, I meant that Maria and I differ on various topics such as religion, finances and culture. While I do respect Maria and enjoyed my time with her, for a long-term relationship involving marriage and children, I'd prefer someone who shares more similarities to me. My own family also felt that Maria and I weren't a good match in the long run, though they did acknowledge her as a nice girl. Firstly, Maria and I have very different opinions on religion. I don't want to get too bogged down in the details, but I feel like this was a major obstacle to us forming a lasting relationship, especially considering how we both wanted children eventually. Second, we both come from different places financially. Maria is in a significant amount of debt, both student loans and credit card debt. While I don't judge being in debt, I do think Maria could be more careful with her finances. I admit that I've had a more privileged perspective than her, so I might not fully understand her financial struggles. Nonetheless, during our time together, I felt that she would typically spend more than she should. Lastly, Maria and I have different cultural backgrounds. Though we're both Americans, we come from different walks of life, which was a point of contention for my family, especially my older sister, 36, and sometimes for even myself during certain points in our relationship. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm fairly certain Maria still has feelings for me. Whenever we talk privately, she loves to reminisce about our time together and usually refers to it as the happiest time of her life. Not to mention, if I mention to her a date I've been on, I can tell it hurts her, but she tries to hide it. Moving on to the update. I spoke with my older brother Brad, 32, over the phone since posting, and he said that he thinks it's time Maria and I completely part ways. Our differences were already big, and now with her having a child, it's completely unrealistic for anything to ever work out between us. Brad believes that by maintaining contact, I'm only giving Maria false hope of us getting back together. He also thinks that given how Maria's friends reacted to my absences, it's clear that they're all hoping we get back together. I hoped I'd be able to remain friends with Maria, but after hearing my brother and doing some self-reflection, I realized that I couldn't do so in good faith. I don't plan on suddenly cutting contact since Maria just had a baby and all, but I'll be winding down contact in the coming weeks and months. However, for the next month or so, I will mostly act like I normally do since it's a very difficult time for her, and her social circle is already small. Monday evening, I got a call from Maria. We chatted for a bit, and she mentioned how she'd like me and some of our other friends to come and meet the baby in a few weeks when he gets bigger and stronger. I did agree to this, and we'll all be getting together at her place in about a month to see the little guy. She also shared some photos of him with me, and again mentioned her nervousness about raising him alone. When I asked about the father, she admitted she hadn't spoken to him in a while, which is frustrating. Aside from this, there isn't much else to report. I wish Maria all the best, and hope she finds her way through parenthood. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, honestly, Opie's brother is spot on. By maintaining contact, it's only giving her false hope. Yeah, Opie's just got to rip the band-aid off at some point. Seems fair to wait a little bit until you can meet the baby and do all the pleasantries, but yeah, Opie's got to have to do it. And to be honest, Maria's probably going to be so preoccupied with the new kid anyway that she probably won't be as heartbroken as she normally would be. What do you guys think? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Anyway, time to move on to another story. Okay, going over to relationship advice. This one was written by user Repinator, and it's titled, I've just discovered that my girlfriend's family is putting me down in front of her and me. Can I ever rebuild the trust? A bit of background. I'm a 29-year-old man who met my girlfriend, a 27-year-old woman, when we both moved to a new town for work about a year ago. We hit it off right away, and we've been together ever since. Her family is Portuguese, and from the beginning I've made efforts to be involved and get to know them, despite the language barrier. I've met her family several times, and on the surface they've always been nothing but welcoming and nice to me. However, they have a habit of speaking Portuguese around me, which I initially didn't mind because I understood it was their first language and it made them comfortable. Wanting to connect with them on a deeper level and surprise my girlfriend, I recently began learning Portuguese. At a recent family dinner, my new language skills unexpectedly revealed a hurtful reality. As I listened, I realized they were talking about me in derogatory terms, calling me dumb, among other insults, right in front of me, all while smiling and acting friendly. From what I've gathered, my girlfriend understands what's being said, but doesn't seem to join in on the insults. However, she hasn't done anything to stop it either, occasionally trying to hide her reactions or snickers. I feel betrayed and humiliated, and I'm questioning the integrity of our relationship and her loyalty to me. I'm at a crossroads and unsure how to address this situation. Confronting her family directly seems daunting, especially considering the language barrier and not wanting to cause a rift. However, I also feel that I can't simply ignore such disrespect, and I'm concerned about what this means for the future of our relationship, especially if we were to have a family of our own. Should I confront my girlfriend about her family's behaviour and express how hurtful it is to me? How can I navigate this situation in a way that respects my relationship with her, but also stands up for myself? Any insights, experiences, or suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, but yeah, I'm with OP. I'm not exactly sure how you'd go about it. Let's see what the comments think. You should join in Portuguese the next time they're roasting you. See how they all react when they find out you understand what they're saying. Also, break up with her. First, form an exit plan. If you live together, figure out how to get you and anything important to you to a safe place. You may want to practice a few times, but you should ask her in Portuguese why she's letting her family say what they say and why she is snickering about it. Then, see how she responds. Act based on that response. At the very least, you two need couples therapy if you're going to try and make this work. If she's not standing up for you, she's not much of a partner. It doesn't sound like she's scared of them or anything. You could calmly tell her that you didn't want to spoil it, but you've been learning the language, and you're disappointed at the way she and her family talk about you. But what could she say that would excuse it? If you want to be petty, you could wait until they insult you at the next dinner and respond in Portuguese, "Thanks for the food, and this dumb guy is going to see himself out, and it was nice knowing you all. I just don't understand being this rude and frankly cruel. You sound like a nice person." Opie replies, "I think though, even if I tell her, I know it does not change how I feel about her because she did not stand up for me and allowed it to happen without telling me." Yeah, onto an update. Quick summary, I previously shared how I discovered my girlfriend's family, who is Portuguese, was making racist and derogatory remarks about me in Portuguese, thinking I couldn't understand them. Despite them being outwardly nice, this discovery was deeply hurtful, especially as my girlfriend seemed aware but did nothing to stop it. Update. This past Sunday we visited her family again, and not surprisingly, the pattern of rude comments continued. This time they called me dumb, among other things, and everyone laughed. I laughed along with them and then asked them to pass the salad in Portuguese. I could see the awareness and embarrassment spreading across the table, one by one. I guess you don't make friends with salad. The dinner that followed was inevitably awkward. No one made a scene, but the atmosphere was tense. On the way home, I told my girlfriend that I wanted to break up. To my surprise, she didn't even ask why, which only confirmed my decision was the right one. Given that we both moved to this town for work and were living in a company-supplied rental, I reached out to our HR department to explain my situation. They were understanding and agreed to arrange a separate place for me. In the meantime, I'm staying at a hotel until everything is sorted out. I honestly feel empty about it now, empty inside. It's been a roller coaster and now there's sort of nothing. Maybe I'll feel better tomorrow. Update 2, I spent today packing my things and she spent it crying. Difficult day for both of us. Thank you for all of the comments and support and messages. I'll update in here tomorrow, but I need to rest right now. It's been very difficult to process. Yeah, I can't imagine anything like that would be easy, but there was a pretty cool way to call them out on it. And good for Opie for standing up for himself when his girlfriend certainly wasn't going to. But yeah, you know the drill. Give me your thoughts about that one in the comments and we'll go to another story. Okay, we're jumping back over to Am I the A-Hole? This one was written by user Exciting Edition, and it's titled, Am I the A-Hole if I cancelled my wedding because of my fiancé's family tradition? My fiancé informed me that in his family they do a bedding ceremony. Yup, that's the type of ceremony where the family watches the two newlyweds have sex to see if they actually had sex. I've heard about this when I read many medieval books when I was younger, but I never knew people still did this. It's not common for me to hear or see. My fiancé and I are both 25, so pretty young to be getting married, but we've been together for 5 years. I felt really uncomfortable when he told me this because it's just weird to me. My fiancé said that it would be fine and it would end soon. Would I be overreacting if I cancelled the wedding? I don't even feel safe around him after that comment because he shouldn't be agreeing with them, but I have to realise that this is his family tradition. Our wedding is in 3 months, so I wanted some opinions because I really don't have anyone to talk to about this. Have you guys had to do this at your wedding? Yeah, call me, I don't know, culturally ignorant, but I don't think that's normal. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. That's just strange and weird. WTF. Tell his family they can watch adult content online if they want to see two people be intimate so badly. And tell your fiancé that it's either he stands his ground and defends you, or you're dumping him because you're not entertainment for his family. If you don't mind me asking, what ethnicity or culture is your fiancé and his family? That's just strange and I've never heard of it before. Opie replies, "Oh, I heard this went on during medieval times because that was their tradition and they wanted to prove that the newlywed had sex. Even a bishop had to be inside the room to bless them, so there's a lot of history behind this. Shows that I watch like House of Dragons show a lot of it, and it's just gross. My fiancé and I have been arguing about this non-stop, and he's not backing down. I don't understand why he wants us to do this betting so badly, because he just ends up calling his mother after we have an argument. Do you want to live like that for the rest of your life? Anytime you and he have an argument, he calls his mummy, and would you be okay with him doing this with any future kids?" Opie replies, "No, I would not want him to do that. I see everyone comment, and I'm very thankful for the advice because this is what I came here and asked for. He's not even here right now. He's at his mother's house like he always is because he rums back to his mummy crying. And after his comment and his whole tradition and his family, I don't think I'm going to get married. I thought this was supposed to be a happy ending for me because I always wanted to get married, but I guess some things don't work out." "What culture is your fiancé from, as I've never heard of this?" Opie says he is Scottish. I'm not saying the whole country of Scotland was doing the betting ceremony, but some Scottish people did, but I'm not going to generalise anything. "It absolutely is not and never was pretty common for Europeans." "No, it actually was. It tells it in the history books as well because the betting ceremony has been around for centuries." "So you're marrying a gypsy?" "Lol, no. My fiancé and his family are from Scotland, and I actually learned that there was many betting ceremonies going on in Scotland for centuries. I'm learning a lot." Yeah, Opie might be learning a lot, but I have a feeling she's not going to be feeling any different regarding the situation. It's honestly pretty creepy, I think. Okay, Opie makes an edit. "I'm very grateful for everyone's comments, and you guys are really helping me through the situation. Not too many people will believe it, and that's perfectly fine because this is not something we're familiar with, and we don't really normalise this stuff in this century. My fiancé is at his mother's house, so when he comes back I'll definitely be having a talk with him about the wedding. You guys are really helping me. Like, seriously, I do appreciate everyone. It's really extraordinary to think that people still do this. I don't want to be humiliated by my in-laws and then have to live with that memory for the rest of my life, so I'll not be going through this wedding. I hope you guys are proud of me. I see everyone educating me on the history of this, and I do appreciate it. I'm not going through with the wedding, so I just want to make that clear. He hasn't been home since that argument, but I did talk to him today, and he said he might come today, so we can talk. So I want to see how that plays out, and I'll definitely update you guys." Okay, on to that update. Hello everyone. It's been 2 months since I've been on here. Some of you guys might not remember, but some months ago I shared to you guys that my ex-fiancé had this weird family tradition where during the betting his family had to watch. Come to find out, all of it was just a lie to see me naked. I was disgusted because his whole family as a whole is weird, and the ones who made up that rule were the men in his family. I feel bad for the wives of his family because they were tricked to do this nasty crap. I deleted my original post, and I'm sorry. I kept getting death threats, so I wanted to leave and clear my head. Anyways, I'm seeing this new guy, my male best friend. Kinda like friends with benefits because I don't want to rush anything, and he respects that. There's your update. I know this is the boring update, but I just wanted to let you guys know I'm well. Okay, there you go guys, and the truth comes out. To be honest, I think the quote-unquote tradition in the past was probably born out of the same aspects. One commenter says, "I'm Scottish, this is not a cultural thing." Phew, Scottish culture saved. Any Scots in the chat? Let me know. But good to hear you guys don't do stuff like this. I think it's more of an English thing, right? Weird stuff going on in the royal family there. I kid. I want a free car. My boyfriend and his family seem to think I'll give it to him for free. So I, 23 female, won a brand new compact car in a raffle I entered a few weeks ago at a trade show I was at for work, which is awesome, but I already have an older car that I really like, and I just finished paying it off, so I can finally pay the cheaper liability-only insurance. My car still has a lot of life on it and only has about 100k miles, and if I were to choose a brand new car, it would not be the one that I won. I did some research, and after taxes and shipping, I can make about 14 to 15k from selling the car. That money would be an incredible jumpstart after graduating college. It would more than triple my savings. My boyfriend, 25 male, of a little over a year, has been without a car for a few months. He's been struggling a bit financially, so he hasn't gotten a new one yet. But he can walk to the grocery store, he gets a ride to work, and I drive anywhere else. It's worked out fine, and I really don't mind. He helps out with gas and driving. For background, he lives with friends. I live with my dad for free, so I'm able to save up money. I definitely see a future with him, but we aren't at the point where we've talked about moving in together yet. But we are very serious. I went to a gathering at his parents' house last night. His whole family has been wonderful and welcoming to me, and everyone congratulated me on winning the car. But everyone, including my boyfriend, seemed to think the logical and obvious step was to either give it to my boyfriend or give him my car and keep the new one. I don't plan to do either of these things. It would be different if we were married or living together and our money was mixed together, but it's not. We aren't at that point in the relationship yet. I don't want to give him what would essentially be 15 grand in cash. It doesn't make any sense. If I'd won the money instead, there wouldn't be any talk of just giving it all to him. That car and the resulting money should be mine. It's not my responsibility to provide him with a free car, whether it be my $5,000 car that I really like, or this brand new one. For the dinner at his family's house, I just stayed quiet because I was so shocked at their assumption and didn't want to rip it away from him in front of his entire extended family. How do I break this to him and his family that this car and the money from it is not in any way his? Oh man, that's tough. Yeah, I think you've really just got to explain it to him and hopefully he can see your side of it. He's probably caught up in the excitement of it all as well and is kind of living this little fantasy in his head. Let's go to the comments. Hey, so I didn't want to make a scene with your family, but just to be clear here, my plan with the car that I won is to sell it for cash and use that to get a good start on life. I'm not sure where anyone got the impression that I'd just be handing over the equivalent of $15,000 in cash, but that's not something that's going to be happening, and I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page about that. Hopefully he'll accept that gracefully. It won't be a big deal and you'll move forward together normally. If he does kick up a fuss about you giving him the car, you're going to have to make a decision about whether that kind of entitlement is something that you want to be in a relationship with. You're right that if you were married or even have lived together for several years with joint finances, the situation might have been different, but the two of you don't even live together yet. Him expecting a multi-$1,000 gift as his by right of dating you is a bit much. Just stand your ground. If he says something like he'll make payments to you for the car, then advise him that you'll be willing to sell the new car to him for the full value if he will take out a loan, so that he's making payments to the bank rather than you. You don't want to be in the position of having to collect money from him, either in or outside of a relationship. Don't sell him your old car, as you don't want to keep the new car, and it would just be a way of getting less cash to keep something that you don't care for. I am shocked at their entitlement also. It could be that they were just being exuberant and got carried away. I think my advice will be to proceed as if they were joking. Quote, now I have to really decide what to do with the car. I can't afford to keep it and pay the taxes, insurance on it. I think I'll sell it for $15,000, pay off my current car, figure out how much will have to go to the IRS, and put the rest in savings. Be careful, you might owe taxes for the car. You'll get a 1099 MISC for it. So not only would you be out of the money for the car, but you could potentially owe quite a bit just for winning it. Tell his family no, you still have to pay for it even though it's free. Alright, onto an update. So, the day after the family gathering where everyone assumed I'd just let my boyfriend use the car for free, I had to drive into the city where I won the car to sign a bunch of paperwork and pay some fees. We both had the day off, so I texted my boyfriend and asked if he'd like to come along so we could walk around the city and go out to eat afterwards. He agreed and I picked him up. We hadn't talked about the night before at all. He asked general questions about what it was I had to do today, and I explained that, and then I explained how the taxes on the car were going to be several $1,000s, but luckily I could cover them with my savings until I got the money for selling the car, and hopefully it would come out to around 14 to 15k based on my brother's calculations. He was quiet for a minute and asked, "You don't want to keep it?" And I said no, that I was happy with the older, bigger car I currently have. It better suits our needs and I can pay cheaper insurance on it because it's paid off. He said that he didn't realize the taxes would be so much. It was awkward in the car for a moment, and I finally just asked, "Did your family think I'd give you the car to use?" He said his mum told everyone right before I got there that we, meaning the boyfriend and I, won the car and that he'd finally have something to drive. He said he didn't think I'd do that, but he assumed I'd want to keep the new car simply because it was new, and that maybe I'd let him use my old car if he took over insurance payments. But then he very quickly said that he did not realize the taxes would be more than a few $100s. I guess his train of thought makes sense given what he assumed about the cost. He agreed that it made the most sense to sell the new car. I asked if he was going to explain that to his mother, and he said that he would, and that she views the two of us like a married couple already, because she wants that so badly for him and has been heavily pressuring him to propose to me. That I did not know. Neither of us are at a point where we're even remotely ready for that. We're happy with where we are right now. He promised to talk to his mum and explain everything to his family, and that he wouldn't let any of them think less of me. I was worried about that. So he waited patiently while I dealt with the company running the raffle. It ended up taking over 3 hours, and then we had a nice time strolling around the city, and I treated us to a very nice dinner. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, resolved pretty amicably there. And I had a feeling that the boyfriend knew deep down that probably wasn't going to happen, given his silence about the whole thing. Good communication in the end there, and hopefully he can tell his mum in a way that won't make her spiteful of OP. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Okay, jumping over to the Am I the A-hole subreddit, this one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for banning my wife from naming our baby after her dead best friend?" This is a throwaway due to some personal info on this post I don't want to be linked back to my main. Long story short, my 28 male wife, 28, is estranged from her family and has been since a teenager. She met Ava in school, and they were inseparable, with Ava letting my wife stay over a lot, as well as providing a constant source of support. I met my wife at university. Unfortunately, Ava died suddenly a year into our relationship. I'd met her a few times and she was lovely. My wife was understandably devastated. 2 years ago we married and she took my last name, Brown. Our baby girl is due in the spring, and understandably my wife wants to honour Ava in her name. This is something that she has said throughout the relationship. I was happy with the idea of honouring her, and we have discussed baby names throughout the relationship and pregnancy. The leading name we were tossing about was a place name that had significant memories to them. Yesterday she came up to me and said that she had a dream about Ava asking her to remember her by her name. She had some like this around the time Ava died, but none recently to my knowledge. And to memorialise her, our baby must be called Ava. I said absolutely no way. She said why not, and I reminded her of the historical figure, Ava Brown, wife of probably one of history's most evil figures, and reassured her that we will tell our kids about Aunt Ava, and she'll always be remembered, but my wife refused, saying it has to be her name. She says few will make the link to the historical character and she won't be bullied at school. She said she had fell out with the place name, and a family member has had a baby recently with a similar name, think Brooke to Brooklyn. I suggested things to do with Ava, such as her birthstone or honouring her through a middle name, or even names that had Eve or Ava in it, anything but Ava itself. She started crying and said that she won't name the baby anything else, and it's the ultimate way Ava can live on. I said it's a crappy situation, and if we had literally any other surname we would, but I literally can't. Not only am I extremely morally opposed, I work in a field where if there was wind that I named my child Ava Brown, my work could be at risk. She said I'm making excuses and not supporting her as she's putting in a lot of effort to having this baby. This resulted in a fight, and now I'm on the couch for the second night now. Some of our friends are saying I'm being dramatic, but my sister, the mother of Brooke, is telling me that if she continues to register the baby without her, to be honest, I'm leaning that way if she continues not to compromise. I'm really not sure what to do. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to name my baby Ava? Sheesh, let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. Putting the actual name aside, although I instantly made the connection and I'm not exactly a history buff, so yikes. She's the a-hole for this. Quote, "It's the ultimate way Ava can live on." That's a lot of pressure to put on your unborn child. Honouring her friend is one thing. Expecting your child to be how she gets to live on is too much. You cannot, I repeat, cannot name your child Ava Brown. Even people with the slightest knowledge of history know that name as well as its connection to Hitler. Naming a kid that would make everyone who hears her name assume you're Nazis, white supremacists and all that other fun stuff. Don't. Please don't. Not the a-hole. As a Jewish person, I would definitely be side-eyeing someone with a daughter named Ava Brown, especially a history teacher. I don't think your instincts are wrong here. Opie answers some questions. Can you use your wife's maiden name? My wife is estranged from her family and was very eager to drop her maiden name. She has said that name makes her think of her horrible past. I know she would not ever change her name back, let alone name a child with it. She's also really close to my family, who took her as one of their own in when we met due to her situation. We're in the UK, so yes, she could have kept the name if she wanted to. She's estranged from her family and has been for 10 years. Her family don't know where she is, or of my existence. She had a common first, but a distinct maiden name, so wanted to swap to my, obviously rather common name, not only because she wants no ties to that name, but also so they could not find her, as they are very bad, dangerous people. This is also why I will not consider comments about swapping to her maiden name. On Opie's profession and why people would know. I work as a history teacher in a very liberal school, and Nazis is a decent chunk of the curriculum for some of my older students. Not that I would share my personal life in depth to the students. My colleagues in SMT would definitely ask about it. I hope to rise the ranks at this school, so I don't want to affect that. I also have a cousin who is one of my older students, so there's a risk of students and de facto parents finding out my baby's name that way if her friends ask. Braun is pronounced Brown in German, so people who know history will know. Yes, I'm based in the UK and I teach the Nazis in my syllabus. While my German is very basic and picked up from a couple of weeks travelling, plus some of the vocab I've come across on my job, I thought Brown was pronounced with a similar AU sound to Hauptmann or organ. Correct me if I'm wrong, just curious. Okay, on to an update. Hi all, it's been a while and I didn't realise I was still logged into this account. I didn't expect my Am I the A-hole post to blow up so much, and I'd like to thank you all for your comments. They really gave me food for thought. Well, soon after posting, I called up Ava's sister, Rose, as my wife, Lou, is really close to her, and explained the situation. I know I shouldn't get people involved in marital matters, but Rose's opinion really matters to Lou, especially when Ava is involved. Rose agreed with me that naming a daughter Ava Brown would be harmful, and she mentioned something that we believe to be a game changer. One thing you must know about the late Ava, dear reader, was that she was a writer. She kept journals which her sister held onto after her death. In one of these journals was a baby name list, where she gave 5 names for a girl and 5 names for a boy. Rose held onto these names when she was having children. One of her sons is named the top boy name, but she's done now and wants to give it to my wife. But we believed we have to introduce this carefully, so we launched a game plan. The next day, I sat down with Lou and said on no uncertain terms would our daughter be called Ava. Brown is the only surname we have, and Ava is not something I'd feel comfortable pairing with it. As I mentioned in comments, my wife is estranged from her family, and often jokes that we got married so young, at 22, so she could get rid of her maiden name. She agreed that our child will take our married name, but continued to stress about forgetting Ava. I also mentioned that by naming a child Ava, you'd be pressuring that child to live on for dead Ava, and that's a big burden for young shoulders. My cousin was named after a dead relative, and my grandparents often compared him to that relative, and that's not something I want for my own child. That seemed to resonate, and she admitted that pregnancy was bringing up old feelings, as she and Ava always said that they'd be pregnant together. I suggested therapy, and she started therapy last week. I then talked about mine and Rosa's conversation, and she was very interested. We agreed that it would be lovely giving Ava the opportunity to name a child, knowing it was something she was seemingly passionate about, and have narrowed it down between 2 of the 5 girl names. Turns out the girl had taste. Being able to discuss baby names and thinking about our daughter as her own person has been a blessing, and I can see my wife is on the mend. I think this will be the only update, and I can't wait to meet my daughter. Thank you all for your help. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, I think using baby names that Ava picked is a great way to honour her memory. I just wish they told us what name they picked. Oh well, great update all in all. Give me your thoughts and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, same subreddit. This one was written by user Rebel Elan, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for preemptively striking against splitting the bill at a group dinner? Title says it all, but here's the story. I was invited to a group dinner and decided to go. I usually decline because 2 couples in this group are freeloaders and the split the check type. They order expensive items on the menu, appetizers and cocktails, while I get a moderately priced dish and a Coke. I was told they wouldn't be there this time, and that's why I decided to go. Well, they were there. I didn't bother asking what the story was because it didn't matter. I knew it was going to happen come check time. So I excused myself, went to flag down my server, and asked if he would please separate my bill from the others. He agreed. When time came to pay the bill, I handed the server my credit card and paid my bill. I tipped 25%. The freeloaders went, "Oh, I thought we were splitting the bill like we always do." To which I said, "Oh, well, you're bad." But this prompted 2 other people in the group to ask for separate checks too, which the server happily did. After I paid, I told everyone good night and went on my way. The next day I got a text from another person in the group, 9 total, the 2 freeloading couples and 5 solos, that I was an a-hole for doing that. They do normally split the bill, as it gives everyone a chance to have a nice meal they couldn't otherwise afford, and it also makes splitting the 20% group gratuity easier. I told her I would not be guilted to staying within my means and not paying for mooches. Then I said the only reason why I came was because I thought the mooch couples wouldn't be there because they've been doing this for years. Still, I'm being accused of disrupting the group vibe. Did I? I would think not, because of the 2 that also asked for separate bills. What the hell? I didn't think splitting the bill was a thing so that everyone could afford better meals. In my mind, it's more of a convenience thing. Like, you acknowledge that everyone's dish was more or less the same price, so to be convenient, we all put it in one bill. I mean, that's what it should be for. I think Opie's well within their rights to do what they did. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, I always assumed we were getting together to socialise as friends, not subsidise meals for other people that cost more than what I have budgeted for myself. If that is the group vibe, then I hereby opt out of the group. The fact that others followed your lead in requesting separate checks shows you are not the only person who feels this way. They were just looking for someone else to be brave enough to do it first. If I were you, I would contact those 2 and start a new Dutch dinner group. That line about having a nice meal they couldn't usually afford is BS. Opie says, I was like, what the F when I read that too. Then I realised she sometimes takes advantage too, though she's not as brazen as the mooch couples. I think she was implying I could and should take advantage too from time to time. That's not how I roll though. I'm very pay your own way. Opie clarifies this isn't treating poorer friends to dinner. That's not what was going on here. We all make good money. These guys are just freeloaders. Zero decorum. Like I said, I only went because I thought they wouldn't be there. I stopped going because I noticed they were FL, and my feelings weren't a secret. By the way, when I invite someone out to dinner, I pay the entire bill. The type of people I'd make that offer to are the type that would decline the invitation if it would wound their pride. And one more piece of info. We all make roughly the same amount of money. 1. If the suggested restaurant is out of your price range or budget, you decline the invitation. And 2, we go to the same restaurant, a Brazilian steakhouse, and everyone in the group likes steaks, so it's an easy choice. Okay, on to an update. I forwarded the text to the 2 people who also asked for separate bills. They both were upset by the text and reassured me that I was not the a-hole. They said they too were growing tired of the mooches and wished they stood up for themselves sooner. Then one of them said that the group vibe was disrupted when I first stopped coming. Everyone knew why, so it made them mooching the elephant in the room, and he's bad for not addressing it out of his need to go along to get along. The other agreed, and they both said they missed having me there. That made me feel so good. The three of us then reached out to the solo member who didn't ask for a separate check. This person is also the organizer. The first thing she did was apologize to me for poor communication. She admitted they changed their minds about not coming and plenty of time to inform me, but she really wanted me to come. She realized she should have when she saw the look on my face. She said she was tired of the mooching too, but was too much of a coward to say something, which only fueled their "we always do it this way" ammo. She then filled us in on what happened after we left. Turns out the other two separate bills left shortly after I did. Everyone ended up getting separate checks, which made the two mooch couples angry. They justified their mooching the same way the chick in the text did. They have expenses we don't, and would it kill us to help them have a little joy? Yeah, not happening, buddy. The four of us are going to start having a new group dinner at a different restaurant. Yeah, kick him to the curb, I say. Pretty good ending there. What would you guys do? Let me know. Am I the a-hole for not telling my boyfriend I won money 15 years ago? I don't know what I did wrong, or if what I did is wrong, and I need some advice. I didn't want to post this on my real account because I'd like to be as anonymous as possible. My boyfriend, 35, and I, 35 female, were discussing finances as we wanted to be on the same page. My boyfriend moved in with me unexpectedly 3 months ago as his landlord decided to move into the property with his family. We were discussing finances and the topic of how I own my place came up. I explained I won some money, not a lot, but enough to be able to put myself through nursing school, purchase my home and have some savings back in 2009, and bought my place outright and then rented it out until I moved back into it in late 2018. Obviously I had some luck on my side as this was right in the middle of the recession, so I got my place for real cheap. He says I deceived him by giving him the impression that I was financially well off and that I'd led him to believe I was more business savvy than I was. I don't know how I did that because I literally work as a nurse and make decent money, fully own my home, fully own my car, have decent retirement plans and decent savings. I'm fairly certain that I'm financially better off than most people I know. He says that he can't trust me anymore and that he was stupid to have listened to my financial advice, but the thing is I never gave him any financial advice, except for telling him not to buy a car that was in my opinion unreliable and much too expensive. Did I deceive him by not telling him how I got myself financially stable? FYI, we've been dating for almost a year and a half. Honestly, it sounds like the boyfriend might be a little bit jealous of OP's current, comfortable living situation, I suppose. Let's go to some comments. Not the a-hole. This feels like jealousy on his part, so he's lashing out. Out of interest, how long have you two been together? Because this kind of information can take a while to disclose. If you were together when you won the money and hid it from him, that might be a different argument. Also, you are financially savvy because you got a windfall and didn't waste it. Well done you. OP replies, we've been together almost a year and a half. I didn't even know him when I won my money. Thank you. Not the a-hole, and I see a lot of red flags here. It sounds like you were very responsible about how you spent your windfall, securing yourself a home, paying for your education, and putting the rest aside in savings. I'm not sure what about that he's questioning. My concern is that he might have thought you were very wealthy and was hoping you would be his sugar mama. Is he only in this for the money? Not the a-hole. Thank God you found this out right now. I would make him an ex-boyfriend and kick him out. Don't want him to start laying claims to your home's equity after he lives there too long, depending on state and provincial laws on common law partners. He's jealous. He also likely thinks that you were his meal ticket. He's angry over nothing reasonable. 1.5 years isn't very long, and you don't owe someone the whole, I bought this house because I got money from X blah blah blah. Not the a-hole. Sounds like he's insecure because you make more and or have more success than him. He's putting you down to make himself feel better. Nurses make bank. They work hard hours and are compensated accordingly. Simply ask him, knowing how you probably earn 100k per year and another 30 to 40k in overtime, if he believes you could own your home without your prior luck. because unless it's some mansion, buying anything in the recession was cheap, and as I stated, you likely make bank. If he feels like you don't deserve your home because of some chance or luck and couldn't afford it, offer to move into his comparable home he chooses. Honestly, I don't think he recognizes your success, and I think you need a long chat about it over a bottle of wine, or 3. He can either be proud of you and drop it, or he can be single. Opie replies, I earn a bit over 200k, and with overtime I earn more. I also know I could buy a fairly decent place now if I wanted to, and I base that on my colleagues who purchased their homes in the past few years. But you're right, I'm definitely going to ask him this. I was just so taken aback by his response to me sharing things with him that I was genuinely perplexed on what I did to cause such an argument. Okay, Opie makes a few edits. I just had another very weird conversation with him, and I honestly can't wrap my head around it. Yeah, so he's definitely a gold digger. He asked me how much I have in savings and seemed impressed with how much, and then said maybe he reacted too aggressively. He then asked and told me that he still wants the car I advised him not to get. He hinted at me getting it for him as a birthday present since it's his birthday in early March. I'm definitely dumping him. Going to wait till my 2 sisters and my 2 brother-in-laws can come over before I broke up with him just in case he reacts crazy. Edit 2. He's jealous and also resentful. He's ranting about how he would have tripled the money if he had won it. Edit 3. He's saying that my money is wasted on me because I don't, quote, make it make money. Apparently I should have been investing my savings in high-yielding stocks and other crap. FYI, I do get financial advice from a financial advisor I trust, but I'm a risk-averse person, so I'd never invest it in the manner this idiot is telling me. Sure, the chance to get a lot of money is there, but so is the chance to lose. Edit 4. He's now on a crazy rant because I suggested we take a break from this argument because I don't want to ruin my few days off. My god, I can't believe how he's behaving. He thinks he's so clever, but I'm thoroughly disgusted. Oh, it is absolutely over between us. Edit 5. Okay, so I understand him better now. So my house and the property it's on is what led him to believe I was much richer than I am. He assumed I was loaded. So me telling him I actually got lucky ticked him off. Then when he found out how much in savings and assets I have, he perked up and had a change of mind. He's now telling me that with just a quarter of my money, he can show me how to invest on the stock market and, quote, make real money. Oh, he's genuinely deluded. Wow, this guy's been listening to some problematic podcasts, I bet. Opie adds a couple more comments. Still important to recognise how much luck plays a part in wealth. I absolutely recognise that my win put me in an extraordinary position. If I didn't win it, I would have had student loans and other debt hanging over my head. I never thought of myself as superior or more worthy than anyone else for being financially stable. I literally grew up very poor, and that money changed my life and the lives of my sisters, so I absolutely recognise the privileges and opportunities it gave me and what it continues to give. More on the boyfriend. He said he had 18k in savings. In regards to him moving in, he was definitely given a 30-day notice and he looked for a place. In fact, I helped him with it, but the rental market was just a bit brutal, so we agreed he could move in, and yes, he pays rent. My jaw dropped when he hinted at me getting a Tesla for him. Talking to him the past couple of days has literally hurt my brain. He says one thing, then the next will be contradictory to the previous thing he said. He was never like this before. I guess moving in made it difficult to hide his crazy. Okay, let's go to an update. I've been repeatedly asked to give an update, and here I am. So my sisters and brothers-in-laws came over, and I asked him to leave. He got very angry and argumentative. While he and I argued, my family packed up all his stuff and put it in his car. He didn't have much at mine, as most of his furniture and other bigger items were already in storage. He couldn't believe I'd broke up with him over such a little thing, as if he hadn't spent 3 days yelling and ranting at me. He finally left and is now staying at his parents' house. His parents called me to ask what happened. I explained the situation, and they said it was for the best we broke up. I didn't see him for a few days, but he called and texted a whole bunch, and it was just him flipping between being regretful of his behaviour to raging at my audacity and stupidity. Then I got a call from Mike, one of his friends, and he asked me what happened because ex-boyfriend was telling people he broke up with me for being a cheater. Apparently he caught me sleeping with some random dude. I explained the situation to his friend, and he laughed, saying he was wondering when he'd bring up his money schemes. So we had a long chat, and he told me how my ex had recently lost a lot of money in trading, and that's what had him stressed and anxious. It's also what pushed him over the edge. Apparently he was angry with me for not taking the same risks he takes. He complained to Mike about me being a risk-averse person. Mike told me to move on and to change my locks because my ex apparently had a history of being nasty when dumped. He was right, because a few days after that, X broke into my house and took a crap on my kitchen counter. He was arrested while he was in the process of evacuating his bowels. I obviously changed the codes to my security system so he couldn't get in with the old codes, and by the time he'd broken in the back door, police were already on their way. He tried to tell the police that he was my boyfriend and lived in their house, but what resident breaks the back door of their house and bleeds all over the entire hallway and then takes a crap on their own kitchen counter? He spent the night in jail and was bailed out the next day by his parents. They called to apologise, and I told them never to contact me again. I'm also in the process of getting a protection order. I have never dated crazy before, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked at his insanity. Wow, he really turned the dial up on that one, didn't he? I'm not sure I expected the crap on the kitchen counter, but yeah, he sounded like bad news from the beginning, to be honest. Who would have guessed it? A few losses on the stocks, and he becomes completely unhinged. Play stupid games and all of that. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that one, and we'll go to another story. Okay, this next one was written by user Annabelle. It's regarding Opie getting asked not to wear a certain colour to a wedding, and it's titled, I figured this fits here and wanted to get some more opinions on if I'm an a-hole. My oldest sister, Elaine, 31, is getting married in October to her fiancé of 4 years, Stephen, 35. I, 25 female, am the youngest of 4 sisters, although from my perspective we've always been close growing up. Well, in May, Elaine asked our second sister, Gabriella, 29, to be her maid of honour, which is understandable because they've always been super close growing up. Me and my third sister, Celia, 26, expected to be bridesmaids too. However, Elaine decided to include Stephen's daughters, Tiffany, 12, and Sasha, 8, in the bridal party instead, which we were obviously a little upset about, but understood that it was our sister's special day. Well, anyway, in July I was visiting our mum, while Elaine and Gabriella were also visiting. I overheard them planning the wedding, and decided to ask about the wedding colours, since I was and am still excited for my sister to get married. Elaine told me she was thinking of something bespoke and non-traditional for her wedding dress, which I thought was cool and totally her style, though I still assumed the colour of the dress would be white, but had no way of checking since I wasn't a bridesmaid, and any texts I sent to Gabriella were ignored because it's supposed to be a surprise. In August, I picked out a yellow dress online, as I thought it was a safe bet colour-wise. Before I bought the dress, I sent a picture to Gabriella, who once again left me on red. I asked Celia if she thought the dress was okay, and she agreed that since it's not floor length, it should be okay to wear to Elaine's wedding. The dress is a light yellow, knee-length, plain asymmetrical dress, and it was finally delivered last week. After it was delivered, I sent pictures to everyone, and then Elaine freaked out at me. She called me 7 times while I was at work. When I finally picked up, she yelled at me about how I was an awful sister and was stealing my new niece's spotlight at her wedding. Apparently Tiffany and Sasha were supposed to be the only ones wearing yellow, because Elaine wanted them to feel special. I told Elaine that if I ordered another dress it wouldn't arrive in time, to which she told me to go to a bridal store and buy a different dress. I told her that I'd already spent $50 on a new dress for her wedding, and that I wasn't going to spend another $200 on a fancy bridal store dress. Elaine called me selfish and told me not to bother attending her wedding if I didn't change my dress last minute. Everyone in our family is saying I'm an a-hole for wanting to take away attention from 2 little girls on their dad's wedding day, and that I should just suck it up for my sister. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. As so many kind people have pointed out, yes, I could go to Goodwill and find another dress. I've already suggested this to Elaine, but she rejected that idea because, quote, this is my wedding, not a Walmart. I also offered to wear an old homecoming dress which is pink. This also wasn't good enough for Elaine because Gabriella is wearing pink, and Elaine didn't want me to be dressed exactly like Gabriella, even though Celia is also wearing a similar pink dress. I could go to Goodwill in my spare time, but Elaine has said that she wants to pick out the dress so I don't ruin her wedding. As for dyeing the yellow dress, I don't want to spend $50 on fabric dye only for it to go wrong and then be down $100 with no dress to wear to my sister's wedding, which is in early October. Yeah, I don't know, man. Sounds like their fault for not even telling you what their plans were. I mean, Opie tried to have a conversation with them about what to wear and things like this, but they just left her on red. Also, I don't really see a problem with wearing the same colour as one of the bridesmaids, considering the fact that Opie isn't a bridesmaid. Like, I feel the bridesmaids being unique in colours makes sense, but you can't realistically manage what every single guest is wearing colour-wise. And that's exactly what the bride is trying to do here. Anyway, on to some comments. Not the a-hole. You sent it to her before you bought it. If she can't be bothered to reply to let you know, then why would you be the a-hole now? Not the a-hole. You tried to ask if it would be okay. They also didn't tell anyone not to wear yellow, so how the F were you supposed to know? You're not a mind reader. They should be helping you get a new dress if it bothers them that much, not ridiculing you for something you had no way of knowing. Not the a-hole. She had an opportunity to tell you not to wear it before you bought it. Your mistake was sending a picture after. What's she going to do when another random guest happens to wear yellow? Opie replies, the crazy thing is, our mum bought a floor-length white dress and Elaine is fine with it. You are absolutely correct in the discussion. However, if you want to smooth the waters for the sake of family peace / the high ground, I'd recommend shopping for a dress in person at used stores and or discountish stores, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Target. You should be able to find something adequate that doesn't break the bank. Especially if being discounted by your sister is a running pattern, you don't need to take the high road. It's all just about what type of relationship you have or want to have with her. Okay, onto an update. Elaine's wedding was this past Tuesday, and as many people suggested, I wore my old homecoming dress, which was a pink knee-length dress. In the days leading up to the wedding, my mum and Elaine called me non-stop to tell me that if I wore a yellow dress, I would not be allowed into the wedding venue, and that Elaine should be the one to pick my dress from a bridal shop. As many people suggested, I told Elaine that if she wanted to pick my dress, she could pay for it. Elaine became extremely annoyed with me for my response, as it was, quote, disrespectful to her personally and as a bride, and that I should be more understanding about how expensive weddings are. I reminded her that she was the one who wanted a large black tie wedding, and that no one forced her to be so controlling over colours and outfits. Elaine then proceeded to block me via text, but clearly told our family what I said because I continued to receive texts from our mum and Gabriella, who told me I was rude and that wedding planning is stressful and I should be more accommodating. I told my mother and Gabriella that if Elaine wanted to be so controlling about my dress, that she could pay for it, or I would wear my old homecoming dress. That shut both my mum and Gabriella up, and I didn't hear anything else about the topic of dresses from them until the morning of Elaine's wedding. On the day of Elaine's wedding, I waited for 10 minutes while my mother refused to send me the directions to the wedding venue because she didn't know how. Eventually, I gave up on my mum and asked Celia to send the directions instead, because clearly our mum wanted me to miss the wedding. At this point, I was considering not attending the wedding at all, but I figured if I attended that my family couldn't say that I lacked effort or was being petty towards my sister. When I arrived at the wedding venue, most of the guests were already there. As I said, Elaine planned to have 100 people at her wedding, and since she hadn't specified that no one should wear yellow, there were at least 10 people present dressed in yellow, one of whom was Stephen's mother. Well, anyway, the real drama started when the rest of our extended family arrived at the wedding. My mother's brother began talking to me and said that he was glad I managed to get a new dress and that yellow wasn't my colour anyway. So I asked him if he thought it was appropriate for his sister, my mother, to wear white to her own daughter's wedding, which he didn't reply. I got a lot of dirty looks from other family members and mean comments about how cheap I was and how much audacity I had to ask the bride to pay for my dress. At that point, I figured I could suck it up for a few more hours just to see Elaine get married, and that I could then drop off the wedding gift at the reception. Well, at the wedding reception, Elaine came up to me and pulled me aside. She told me that since she didn't think I would come to the wedding, that she'd cancelled my meal, and that I owed her $110 if I wanted to eat at her wedding, since it cost her $100 per head to book. I asked her why she had anticipated her own sister not attending her wedding, and she made it out like it was my fault. I told her that I didn't have to deal with this, and if this was how she wanted to be, that she could consider herself no longer my sister. I left Elaine's wedding immediately and took my gift with me, just a bottle of wine and a card. My family have texted me non-stop about how petty and jealous I am of Elaine, etc., etc. So Reddit was right. My sister was trying to exclude me from her wedding. Thanks for that. I'll now be going no contact with Elaine and my mother for their favoritism. Gee, that's horrible. Why are they treating OP like that? I feel like we're not getting the entire story. OP answers some additional comments. Have they treated you like this before? How were your relationship growing up? There must have been signs prior to this wedding that they didn't think highly of you and tried to exclude you of events. Either way, good riddance. Keep the no contact and don't even invite them to your future wedding. OP replies, I honestly thought we were close growing up. Like sure, my older sisters would do stuff on their own, but I figured that was just because they wanted time to themselves, not because they were purposely trying to exclude me from their lives. Holy crap, I actually can't believe the audacity of your mum, Elaine, and the other family members. Did your mum actually wear white to Elaine's wedding though? OP replies, yes, our mum wore white to Elaine's wedding, but this wasn't a problem because she apparently had 2 wedding dresses, according to Celia. However, I left without seeing Elaine's second dress. On if OP is the family scapegoat. Well, to answer your question, growing up family members would tell our parents that Elaine was the prettiest and that she would find a successful husband and have a bright future because of how pretty she was. She used to do child pageants. And on her relationship with her sisters, well, Celia thinks I'm right to cut contact with Elaine after the way she spoke to me at the wedding and the way she treated me over the whole yellow dress issue. Gabriella hasn't tried to reach out, so I have no idea how she feels. Yeah, something about weddings that just bring out the crazy in people. It's quite ironic in the fact that weddings symbolize the union in people, when quite often in reality it just causes drama and turns people against each other. Funny how that works. I'm in love with my best friend, and he won't leave his loser girlfriend for me. I know the title makes me seem like a bee, but I couldn't think of another way to summarize it in one go. We'll call him Dean, and we'll call his girlfriend Helen. Basically, I'm a university student, and interned at a marketing company over the last few summers. Dean was my boss there, and we became really close friends. Our friendship moved outside of work, and I no longer intern there at all. The more we talked, the more I fell for him. He's incredible, hard-working, successful, funny, the whole package. His girlfriend is not, in my opinion. She's actually a loser. She's uneducated and unemployed. Helen dropped out of high school because of family problems. Apparently her mum has severe anxiety and depression, overdosed multiple times when Helen was a kid, and would have breakdowns and threaten to hurt herself if she was left alone. So Helen stayed home with her, and still does when necessary, because her father can't get retired. Over the years, Helen has admitted it's weighed on her own mental health. She sees a psychiatrist and takes medication. She's developed her own irrational anxiety. She's had some jobs over the years, in the hours her dad is home with her mum from work, but would have screaming and crying panic attacks while on the job. She has them at home sometimes too, at night, but she can calm herself down okay apparently. Subsequently, she's never finished school or held down a job. Dean and I have talked about it many times. He insists she's doing her best, that she does all the cooking, cleaning, laundry, yard work, etc. at her home. She gets a very small amount of money from her father for this weekly. She also does video game streaming and makes some money from that. Barely any, I think. They've been together for 5 years, and he's come to terms with the fact that she may never work or get educated. Dean has a marketing degree, but he doesn't seem to care. He says he will provide financially, and he's okay with her being a stay-at-home mother someday, or even just a stay-at-home wife. I DM'd him, asking him why he's even in love with her, how he fell in love with her. Just why? I don't get it. He could do so much better. He said this, I fell in love with her for many reasons. She's sweet, kind, cute, and she always sees the best in people, even with everything that she's been through. I think she's funny, beautiful, intelligent, and is always trying to do some good. I like that she's random, silly, quirky, and passionate AF. I like how competitive she is, because I'm competitive too. I like that she's athletic. I like how she cooks things, top of the dome, without the need to Google everything like me. I love her giggle, and I really love her smile. I like her singing voice and, well, all of her voices. I like her hugs and I love her kisses. I like when her fingers are in my hair. I like the things that she draws or makes from hand. I like it when she holds my hand. I like her taste in memes and I like her taste in music. I like her puns and her sense of humour. I really like her presence and I like her dance moves and how good she is at everything. I like that she likes to help people. I genuinely like the person that she is, always have. I admire her a lot and will always want her for myself. I told him how I felt about him, how I'm in love with him, and that I wished she wasn't around. He said, "Well, I'm lucky that she is. I don't know what I'd do without her." I told him he's just comfortable, and he's staying with her because it's been a long time, that I've been at a place in my life where I thought I couldn't go on without certain people, but I survived, and he would too. He said this, "Well, I don't want to, so I'd appreciate you not saying things like, 'I wish she wasn't in the picture.' That's awful. If you cared at all about me, then you'd say that I'm lucky to have her and respect that, you know?" So he adamantly won't leave her, and I don't understand why. With the little money she earns, she saves up to do some very special things for him. Got him a cameo from his favourite actress, took him to see his favourite sports team in the playoffs, got him a PS4, and she's taking him to his favourite band this summer. She also does sweet stuff for him like give him random cards, drawings, paintings, crap like that. I think maybe that's the real reason he stays with her, but I could do that stuff for him too. She's had years to do it. I'm studying hard. I work as a barista to get through school, and love talking to him. I love spending time with him. He means the world to me. Does anyone have advice on how I can win him over? I just want him for myself. I'm the better choice for him. He just doesn't realise it right now. What can I do here? Oh my god, so Opie doesn't realise how this guy's in love with his girlfriend and then proceeds to list every reason why he's in love with his girlfriend? Gee, it doesn't really make sense, does it? Let's go to some comments. I have a feeling they're going to be pretty harsh. Link him to this Reddit post and he'll be able to see where you're coming from in a way that's clearer than text messages, which are short and impersonal. He'll see it with super clear eyes, and he'll probably even realise he needs to take the problem person out of his life. Your replies in particular will show him everything he hasn't realised. You're the a-hole. Wait, wrong sub. But you're an a-hole and you need to move on. Lose his number, get lost. What the F is wrong with you? Why are you on a high horse because you're getting a degree in marketing, which are a dime a dozen? This woman is ill and may not be able to work. You're not better than her because you work and go to school. Your username is really scary to me as I don't know how you can hate someone for having an anxiety disorder. She sounds like a great partner, and if he's happy to have her stay at home and maintain the house, why is it any of your concern? Now for a transcript of the screenshots between OP and Dean, the guy. Dean: how materialistic are you? OP: you're really going to support some stupid B the rest of your life? That's really insane. Dean: it's none of your business. Why'd you apologise if you're still going like this? OP: because I don't think you realise how dumb what you're choosing for yourself is. She's not worth it. You can have someone who is your equal. Dean: listen, I don't have to argue with you about who I'm going to marry, lol. You want to talk? We can talk about everything you want, except my relationship. Otherwise, I won't be replying. OP: you looked out for me, so I'm just looking out for you. I'm just being a good friend. She has no job though, and I do. Dean: yeah, you're a real treat. At least I'm not a broke bee. You work at a coffee shop and rent a room, lol. Yeah, which is more than she does, isn't it? No, actually. Call my girlfriend B one more time. I call them like I see them. No one else would do that. You're still talking to me. You didn't give up. Dean: just trying to look out. Doesn't seem like you have anyone else. Anyone would do the same. OP: not any guy I've met before. I just wish she wasn't in the picture, I guess. Well, I'm lucky that she is. I don't know what I'd do without her. You'd go on like everyone else. There are many people I thought I couldn't go on without, but here I am. You would figure it out too. Well, I don't want to, so I'd appreciate you not saying things like, I wish she wasn't in the picture. That's awful. If you cared at all about me, then you'd say that I'm lucky to have her and respect that, you know? OP then goes on to say, we were fighting here, but we usually have a great relationship. and I decided to link him to this post as someone who commented recommended. Hopefully he'll get a better insight into where I'm at emotionally and why. Geez, OP has seriously tunnel visioned herself into this warped way of thinking. Let's read a few more comments. Can't you just be friends with benefits? OP says, he doesn't want that. I've asked and sent nudes, and he asked me to stop immediately or he would cut contact. You asked for nudes from a guy in a happy relationship and sent him some even though he has a girlfriend? This is the easiest you're the a-hole we've had in at least a week. There's clearly something he sees in her that he doesn't see in you. You can't explain why people like who they like. If he's happy with her and the relationship, then that's that. Your attempts to drive them apart will only drive your friend away from you. OP replies, he hasn't let himself see me in that light though. If he did, he would see I can offer him all she does, and more. He just thinks he's happy. Love is blind. He has no idea what he's in right now because he's in so deep. If he could just wake up and realize we could have a very happy life together in the future. What you think about any of this doesn't matter. It's what he thinks. Move on. OP replies, why can't I change the way he thinks? I'm seeing it as an intervention for his dead-end relationship. I just don't think anyone here is hearing me out. It seems bad on the surface, but it isn't. OP makes another comment. Lol, okay, so I just let him be homeless with her and live in a crappy rest of his life? He could have everything with me, and more. I'm going to have a steady career. I'll have a degree. I'll have many things. So I dream of the things he and I can achieve together. We could have everything if she ceased to exist. I just wish she didn't. That's all. If that makes me bitter, then okay. One commenter says, homeless? I think most people wouldn't care if they were living on the streets with their loved one. Yeah, it would be hard, but they wouldn't be alone. And that's a big conclusion to jump to. I think he'll be able to support both himself and his girlfriend. Also, the DM screenshots, which I finally read, just made you seem even worse. It's one thing to call her a B to strangers on the internet, but to do so to her boyfriend? Damn, I can't believe he's still even bothering to talk to you. I think you belong in r/nice girls. I hope you figure yourself and your behaviour out. It's not okay to treat anyone like this. Okay, and after OP was talked into sending the post to Dean, Dean responds. And here's a transcript of his reply. L, you linked me to this post so I could understand you better, and now I do. I love my girlfriend more than life itself. I've been with her for 5 years for a reason. Not because of what she can offer me financially, but because of who she is as a person. That's what matters to me. I'll work 3 jobs if it means keeping her. For example, she once spent 2 hours travelling in the rain to bring my sick mum some homemade soup. Money doesn't buy that kind of heart. I never told you that story because you would get emotional and angry with me for even bringing up my girlfriend. I tried to be your friend because you seemed lonely. When we worked together, you said your roommates don't talk to you, and your family is back in your home country. We never had a future together. It's not even a possibility. I will protect that woman at all costs, and it really hurts me to see you talking crap about her to strangers on the internet. I hope you'll have the integrity to take this down. Maybe it's best we don't stay friends for now, and see where things head. You sent me the link to this thread, and then you immediately blocked me on Instagram. Why? I don't understand what you want from me at this point, but it's no longer worth my energy. If you're ready to grow up and respect my relationship, give me a call. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that story. I mean, yeah, it's obvious to see that OP was just on next level delusion. I'm surprised the relationship with Dean has even lasted this long. Like, Dean seems to be completely aware of her intentions with him, yet still proceeds to entertain the thought of a friendship. Like, I don't know, at that point, I'd probably just be willing to cut her off completely. I mean, wouldn't you? Let me know. Anyway, let's go to the next story. Okay, jumping over to True Off My Chest, this one was written by a now deleted account, and it's titled, My boyfriend is moving in with his female best friend, and their closeness makes me uncomfortable. So my boyfriend and I have been together for just under a year. When we first started dating, he told me about Faith, one of his best friends. They've known one another since childhood and are extremely close. I didn't have a problem with this initially because Faith had a boyfriend, and the way she acted towards my boyfriend, she also acted towards another close male friend, so I thought it's just who she is. Just before Christmas, Faith and her boyfriend broke up. I never got the details, just that it was a really bad breakup. They were living together and Faith needed a place to stay, so my boyfriend offered his couch. This is where I started getting uncomfortable. I told him I didn't like some girl staying at his place like this, and he told me it's temporary and she's his best friend, and I don't get a say in who he lends his couch out to. We argued and eventually I relented. On New Year's, I wanted to go back to his place after the celebration at my friend's place, but he said Faith is there, and we wouldn't be able to do anything, sex, and I got annoyed and said she can listen to it for all I care. He got annoyed at that and said he's not doing that. I asked him when she plans on getting her own place, and he said she's looking but it's hard to find something in her price range. I went home alone that night. A week ago, he wasn't feeling the greatest, so I wanted to surprise him with food. So I showed up to his apartment and she answered the door in a tank top and very small pajama shorts. When she went to have a shower, I asked him if she walks around like that all the time, and he said yes and saw me get annoyed and told me not to start. I asked him how he'd feel if I had a close male friend living with me, walking around half naked, and he said he'd be uncomfortable, but he'd trust me not to do anything. I told him I do trust him, but it's still a boundary for me, and I asked again when she's moving out. That's when he dropped the bomb on me that the two of them have decided to look for a place together once his lease is up in March. I lost it. She heard us fighting and came out of the shower, dressed somewhat, and asked what was wrong, and I told her I'm not comfortable with any of this. She apologized and said I better find a way to be comfortable with it. He didn't say anything, and when I said seriously, he sighed and told me she's right, that she's been his friend longer than I've been in his life, and this will benefit them both in the long run, so this is what's happening. I asked what's going to happen if we wanted to move in together before the lease to whatever place they're getting is up, and he said that's something we can discuss if and when that happens. I was so unbelievably mad and insulted that I just left. I texted him later and asked him to think about what's more important, living with her or our relationship, and he said that sounds like I'm giving him an ultimatum, and I said that's not what I'm doing, but he's being unreasonable. We've been texting since, but it feels like it's probably the end of our relationship. I brought up my discomfort about everything, including how close they are, to my best friend, and she said there's nothing I can do and I'll lose 100% of the time, which kinda ticked me off because if he saw a future with me at all, then shouldn't he want to fight for us and make me feel comfortable in the relationship? Well, there's your answer. He probably doesn't see a long-term future with you. I mean, as harsh as that sounds, I think OP's right. He would fight for it. Let's go to the comments. Before my wife and I dated, and even 3 years into it, I was living with a woman who we'd both met as co-workers, and both of us were in desperate need of a place. I was living with my parents still, and her last roommate left. You know what didn't change when we moved in together? Our personal lives. We still went about dating people, having sex with those people at our home, etc. Even when I was first dating my wife, I would have put more time and energy into my wife, my then girlfriend, because there was a romantic future with her. My old roommate and I are still great friends, and my wife and her get along because they show respect to each other. OP, your situation is not one of respect. Your boyfriend didn't check in, nor did he care about your emotions in regards to this. The girlfriend made hella rude comments to you in front of him without him defending you. I think you have your answer that you'll always come second to this other woman. If and when you break up, keep it as calm as possible and say that you don't want to feel like you're coming in second place to someone else, and that you'll want to be with someone willing to stick up for you as well as acknowledge your own feelings. Just don't be surprised if they're posting about being in a relationship a week later. My long-term boyfriend moved in with a girl he was very good friends with. I was uncomfortable but told not to worry. He was sleeping with her the whole time, and I suppose I always knew. Suffice to say, that relationship is done and should have been done long before that debacle. I'm now with an incredible guy and have been for almost 8 years. Bottom line, if you're uncomfortable and he's not willing to meet you halfway, it's time to go for your own good. You can't have sex because she's there and now they're moving in together, so no sex? Between you and him at least. OP replies, I guess not. Maybe it was because she's couch surfing at the moment and it's a small apartment. If she has her own room, maybe it would be different, but they wouldn't be moving in together until the end of March, so no sex at his apartment, at least until then, is what I got from that. Why didn't you guys just go to your place? OP says, Unfortunately, I had to move back in with my mum last year due to financial reasons. She's made it clear that she doesn't care if we have alone time when she's not at home, but when she's not too, and out of respect to my mum, that's what I'm doing. As I always say on these, as a girl best friend to a guy for 10 plus years, I would never speak to his girlfriend like that. From your perspective then, what do you think she was trying to achieve by speaking to her like this? I know the question is not directed at me, but from my point of view, she's probably trying to assert dominance, as in, she's been here longer, plus he would choose her, and he has proven her right in my opinion. Okay, on to an update. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who commented and gave me advice and support. I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. As for an update, I texted him Thursday sometime after I made the post that I wanted to come pick up the things I have at his place Friday after work. All he replied with was, "Sure." Last night after work I went to his place, and when I got there I texted him that I was in the parking lot and told him to bring my stuff down. I really didn't want to deal with Faith, like at all. He eventually came downstairs with a box of my stuff. I went there with every intention on just getting my things and walking away, not saying anything, but I don't know, it was like word vomit. I couldn't stop myself, and I asked him how long they'd been sleeping together. He kinda laughed and said, "It really doesn't matter now, does it?" And I said it kinda does if he's been sleeping with both of us at the same time. He said the night I stormed out of his place when he was sick was the first time they slept together since we've been together. I didn't ask if they've slept together before me. I feel like the way he worded his answer confirmed they have a history of hooking up, but maybe I'm reading into it. The last thing I said to him was that he needs to figure his crap out because no woman is going to play second to her forever. I got in my car and left without letting him respond or looking for a reaction. It didn't feel great to know that he cheated on me, even though I kind of expected it, to be honest. I think I'm somewhere between anger and indifference right now. I've deleted and blocked both of them on literally everything. I just want to move on from all of this. I know some of you are going to say it's a lesson to be learned, but all I learned from this is to make sure the next guy has no sexual history with any female friends before it becomes a relationship, because F that. And there you go, guys. Yeah, I think all our suspicions were pretty much confirmed at the end there. I've read a few stories like this, and every time it ends up exactly like that. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my parents to sleep in the same bed? I think you know where this is going, but there's no definitive answer on who's in the wrong. Also, for simplicity's sake, I'll be saying parents, but it's my mother and stepfather. My mother and stepdad have been together since I was little. So I'm a 25-year-old woman with two older siblings, both male. When we were growing up, we were never allowed girlfriends or boyfriends to spend the night, which I felt was fair enough. When my brothers got to about 16, however, their girlfriends were allowed to spend nights, but they had to sleep in the spare room. Again, fair. That makes sense to me. I was always somewhat of a tomboy, so, as you can imagine, teen boys didn't show much interest in me romantically, so I didn't get my first boyfriend until I was already 18. My parents wouldn't allow him to spend the night at all, despite us both being over 18. I wouldn't have minded if my brothers had been held to that standard, but I felt as if they were favoured over me. It isn't even because they disliked my boyfriend at the time either. Everyone seemed to love him. That relationship didn't last more than 6-ish months, so I dropped it after a while. I got with my now fiancée when I was 22, and we'd been engaged for a year. We're getting married in only a few months. Still, just like every time before, my parents wouldn't allow him to spend the nights until a few months after we got engaged after I brought it up to them. It wasn't a conflict, but they knew I was irritated and allowed him to start using the spare room. We moved in together not long after, so it didn't really matter. Now, I may be an a-hole. My mother asked about wedding planning, the first time she even contacted me since the move, and I told her I still had a lot to sort out, but I was getting through it, and she practically insisted on coming up to me and having a week of mother-daughter bonding time where she could help me with the wedding planning. My fiancé isn't a very social person and is happy to be the moneybags behind my wedding decisions, he. He just likes to give little opinions, and I'm sure to include them when he does. My parents arrived and we spent the first day going out to dinner. I'd like to point out that the two aren't married and are steadfast that they won't be getting married again. Both of them divorced already, my stepdad twice. So, as the night was slowing down, they asked to be showed to their room. I directed my mother to one guest room and my stepfather to another. We have a 3-bedroom with no kids yet, so we have the space. My mother said that there was plenty of room in one for them both, and instructed my stepdad to come in with her. I explained that, just like she told me, it was my house and I didn't want them sharing a bed in my house. I basically repeated word for word what she would tell me when I'd complain about my brothers getting better treatment than me when it came to their partner. I told her that actually, they were in the same position I was in, because neither of us were married. She tried saying it was different because they'd been together for almost 20 years. I told them that it didn't matter because this is my house and my decision is final, just like how my mother would shut down any discussions about it back then. I was sure to mention how my brothers were allowed their partners and I wasn't, but she claimed I was making it up. They stayed the night and left for home the next day, which I preferred because I was happy wedding planning on my own, and I haven't heard from them since. My grandmother has called to tell me off for it though, so I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong. Am I the a-hole? Sweet revenge. I mean, it's a little bit petty, but I can totally understand where Opie's coming from here. I don't know, I feel like if that happened to me, I couldn't help but admire the balls on it. Let's go to the comments. This would be a good one for malicious compliance too. I don't think I'd call you an a-hole. After all, you're treating them in exactly the way they treated you, and what's good for the goose and all that. Bottom line is that, as you say, your house, your rules, and if you choose to make them abide by the same rules you had to, even if it seems petty, that's your choice. Not the a-hole. They aren't even engaged. They're just boyfriend and girlfriend. Maybe if they get married, you can revisit that issue. Are you petty AF? Yes, in the best way possible. Are you the a-hole? Nope. As far as I'm concerned, you're only going based off the lessons you were taught as a child, and the rules of your home should be respected as you were expected to when you stayed there. They should be proud that you're using the things they taught you, lol. Grandma is an a-hole though. Not the a-hole. Opie tried reasoning with them for years, but was respectful of their rules while in their house despite the sexism. Mum just decided she should be all involved with the wedding planning with no actual invite from Opie to do so or to visit for a week. With one, admittedly petty move, Opie has reworked the power dynamic of the relationship. Mum now knows Opie will be in charge of her own life. Petty? Yes. Mature? Not really. Effective? Boy howdy, yes. When people are reasonable, communication and compromise are key to a good relationship. When they're steamrolling hypocrites, one petty power move does wonders to keep them from trampling your boundaries. Okay, Opie makes an edit. A lot of people are confused. At my mother's house, we were not allowed to ever sleep in the same bed. Ever. Only months after we got engaged did my mother allow him to sleep in the spare room. Also, I said I don't mind the rules they have. It's their home. But it was the double standard for me. I had to wait until 25 to have my fiancé stay at my house, when my brothers could have whoever they wanted from 16. We were engaged by the time they let him. I was no longer a child, and it's not like I've been holding on to resentment for years after it stopped, as some misguided people claim. It was months ago it ended. Also, my intention was never to make them sleep the whole week separately. It was initially, and now the power is in my hands. Do you see the error of your ways? If they did, we could have moved on and laughed about it, and they would have slept in the same bed. Because they didn't and doubled down and started getting aggressive with me, claiming I was making things up, I stuck to it. I know I'm being a-hole-y, but am I the a-hole in the situation I'm in? Opie answers some more questions. Are your brothers your full brothers or half brothers? No, my brothers are my whole blood brothers. Our parents started divorcing before I was born. One comment says, it's in the past, grow up. What do you mean that's in the past? It was months ago, not years. You're being petty. They've been together 25 years and have had sex. They presumably just didn't want you or your brothers to have sex as teens. Way to miss the point of the whole post. I never disagreed with the teen rule. What I disagreed with was the sexism, and that I had to wait until I was engaged at 25 to even have him sleep in the spare room. They could be common law married. Also, you could have just offered it as a joke. I'm in the UK, we don't have that. Also, I was more than hoping and even intended for it to be a joke. I was hoping my mother would see her hypocrisy and we could laugh about it. I didn't intend on actually making them sleep separately. Only when she turned on me and got aggressive with me did I stick to my guns. If they were helping you out, and it's their house, then they're allowed to have rules, especially if they were supporting you financially. So I got engaged to my fiancée last year while living with my parents. They were in no way responsible for me financially in any way, shape or form. I paid rent, bills and bought my own food. They didn't pay for anything. A few months, 2-ish, after getting engaged, we had an argument that he still wasn't able to stay at the house. She caved and allowed him to sleep in the spare room. This was the last straw, and I started looking for a house to buy. I then bought my house outright, though it wasn't as big as I was saving for, and moved into it with my fiancée. Since I wasn't charging him rent or utilities, he wanted to pay for the wedding on his own. I'm from the UK. It's extremely rare for parents to financially support their adult children here. Just be the bigger person, and did you ever talk to them calmly? I chose to be the bigger person for 7 years, trying to voice my opinion, and was shut down every time. In my opinion, I needed to do this to show them because they wouldn't listen. And then they called me a liar and that I was making it all up. Surely, as parents, that was their opportunity to be the bigger person and admit wrongdoing. Oh, and they never let him sleep in the room with me, ever. Only after we were engaged did they let him sleep in the spare room. I say as much in my post. My God, what sort of ultra-conservative parents are these? Like, imagine you're engaged to someone and you're not even allowed to sleep in the same room as them. Just seems extreme to me. Let's go to the update. So, it's been a while, and my post blew up. I even saw it on Facebook, which is crazy. So, the update. After I let the dust settle, I contacted my brothers and asked for their perception, and they mostly agreed with me. They said exactly what I said, that their girlfriends were staying in their beds at 18, let alone not even allowed to sleep in the house at 22. They mentioned that our parents only mentioned our disagreement once to them in passing when they got home, but once my oldest brother reminded them that it was true, that they were allowed partners over as teens, they never brought it up again. It took a couple weeks, but my mother called me to talk. At first, she maintained that it was probably only a few times they were allowed girlfriends to sleep over, but I was quick to shut it down. Everything she said I had an answer for. I admit, stress from wedding planning was taking a toll on my self-control. It ended with my mother admitting that she must have forgotten it all, so I just left it. A win is a win. She asked if we could put it all behind us, and I said as soon as she apologized, then we could. She said that she understands how it may have come across as sexist and favoritism, but she didn't mean it to. They were just overly protective of me being their only girl, and didn't realize how that would come across to me. It may not seem like much from my mother. That's as good as a bunch of flowers and a please forgive me card. So the wedding went off without a hitch in November, and everyone had a whale of a time. It was nothing short of magical, and I had all my family there with me. Couldn't have asked for anything more. So, to everyone saying how my parents were never going to talk to me again, and that I was prioritizing petty revenge over a relationship with my parents, please touch grass. If something so small would separate you from your family, that says more about you and your family than it does about me and mine. We all have faults, but come on, bit dramatic. There are a lot of people calling me a justified a-hole, which I kinda get, and a lot saying I'm not the a-hole. The ones convinced I'm being a hellspawn on earth just make me laugh. People talking about how I have no respect. I respect your opinion, but I vehemently disagree with it. To me, I was just showing the same respect I was given. Thank you everyone that was invested. I really needed the validation that I'd done the right thing when my mind was all fuzzy and clouded from stress. General consensus is that I wasn't an a-hole, but I was petty, whether you love the pettiness or not, and I can get behind that. Not the most drama-filled update, but I wanted to put a close on all of this. Thank you all. Yeah, I love that comment from OP in the end there, about the people on the internet and how it says more about them than it does about her. But yeah, all in all, pretty good ending there, and it seems like OP's satisfied with her mum's apology, if you can even call it that. I don't know, what are your thoughts about that? Maybe you got a similar story you'd like to share. I'm sure a lot of us have been in similar scenarios growing up. You know when you're a teenager and you want to invite someone over? Yeah, it's pretty tricky. Anyway, on to another story. Okay, we're on the relationship subreddit now. This one was written by Throwaway Account, and it's titled, Me with my girlfriend of 2 years. I moved in 6 months ago and am disgusted by a secret she's been keeping. This is a throwaway, as I have friends that use Reddit, and I'd like to keep this from them. She was, a fantastic woman, and I'm in love with her. We've always been able to work arguments out and have a fantastic time together. She loves me, and we've talked about marriage sometime soon. About 6 months ago, we decided to give moving in a try and see if we would be compatible living together. It was great until last weekend, when I discovered something she's been keeping from me that is a deal breaker. She is a Nazi sympathizer. We are both Caucasian, but we both have a very diverse upbringing. She grew up without knowing her father and had a Hispanic stepfather and has a half-sibling from that marriage. I grew up in Sacramento and have a lot of friends of all races. Personally, I don't have a racist bone in my body, but clearly she does. She just doesn't know that I know. This is what I know and how I know it. She let me use her laptop last weekend because mine was being repaired. I needed to research something for work, and either she wanted me to see this or she forgot about it. She left for work and had left up a browser, and it was on some weird blog full of racist rants. I was trying not to jump to conclusions, but my curiosity, or snooping, got the best of me, and I looked at her history and bookmarks. What I saw was mortifying, and I felt physically ill. I had a week to process this, and I know I need to bring it up, but I just don't know how. This very well could be the end of the relationship. Part of me hopes that she isn't interested in what these kind of people think, but how likely is that? It's wrong on so many levels, and I don't see myself with someone like this. Has anyone ever been in a similar situation, and how do you handle it? Please help. Oh geez, that's a pretty bad discovery. I mean, you can only hope she was only reading them out of some sort of weird curiosity rather than actually posting. Let's go to the comments. Sometimes I read the red pill out of morbid curiosity. Whenever I read about a weird fetish or problem on here, I usually Google it. It's mortifying to imagine what someone might think of my search history. However, if she kept visiting those pages over a long period of time, that suggests something more. Most people would find that material so disgusting that they couldn't stand to look at it more than once. So if she keeps returning to those sites, there's probably a reason. You need to talk to her and do your best to find out what she honestly thinks about non-white people. You might want to probe her views about persistent inequality. If she gets defensive and insists that she's not racist, but doesn't have a good explanation for being on the sites. Do you have proof she sympathizes with these groups, or is she just browsing? I've gone through phases of intense research of groups I don't necessarily agree with, but I want to learn more about. For example, my brother is one of those doomsday prepper types who collects as many guns and as much ammo as possible, and is prepping for some apocalypse. I don't have cable TV, so I know nothing about these people, and I want to learn about where he's coming from. Not that I want to become a doomsday prepper myself, I just want to understand his perspective. From my browser history, it might look to my husband that I'm getting ready to have a bomb shelter built in the backyard, complete with a full-on arsenal and a few years' worth of food. Opie replies, all I have is her browsing history and bookmarks. I could snoop in her personal stuff, but that just seems like a bad idea, and would really hurt our relationship if she had a good reason to have this kind of history on her computer. I think I'm just going to talk to her about it this weekend, and see if this is something we can get around. Hell, I'd rather her be a crappy troll that's just on sites trolling them. At least I can work with her on that, but racism has no room in my life. If she hasn't given you any indication prior to this in word or action, then giving her the benefit of the doubt seems reasonable. I search for all sorts of weird crap, thanks Reddit, that might need an explanation if someone went snooping. Ask her about it, but try not to be too accusatory when you do. Even if she does have those leanings in her mind, she obviously knows they're wrong if you haven't had a sign of them before now. Opie replies, she's never indicated she has a racist bone in her body. I think that might be why I'm concerned with bringing it up, and just want to get an idea of how I should approach this. Thank you for the advice. Honestly, sometimes I go on forums that disgust me. It's cathartic to get a good rage going. If someone saw my history, they'd be a bit put off. I think it really depends on her reaction when you talk to her, but I certainly wouldn't split while she's at work and go no contact without so much as a conversation. Opie replies, I don't have enough evidence to just split like that. If she had a hidden room with Nazi-related items, and if it was fact at that point, I might go no contact, as I don't know how dangerous of a person she might be, but I just have bookmarks and browsing history, so I owe her a conversation at the very least. Yeah, I mean, I got my fingers crossed, but I have a feeling it's not going to be a good ending here. Let's go to the update. Hey Reddit, thanks for all the advice. I did what almost everyone suggested, and talked to her. I chose to speak with her about this on Saturday night, and this is how the conversation went, to the best of my memory. Me. Hey, do you remember how you let me use your computer the other day? You left some weird site up. What was that all about? Her. What do you mean? Well, it was on some blog with a lot of weird racist stuff. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, well what about all of the bookmarks in history? There's at least a month's worth of similar blogs. Why the F were you snooping through my history? Well, I think I have a right to know if I'm dating a racist. She blew up on me at this point and yelled for a good 10 minutes about how I invaded her trust. Then the bombshell. She admitted to being a Nazi sympathizer. She tried to justify it by saying she's being affected by all of the immigrants coming to the US and stealing jobs and some other crap you would only think was funny watching it on South Park. I could have debated her about it, but I was just kind of taken aback by it all, and I don't know if it would have made a difference. This intelligent person has let hate fill her heart. I thought I would give her one more chance to see if there would ever be a way to get past this, and I asked her if she would see a therapist and see where this hate stems from. Maybe then we can help her recover from whatever brainwashing has happened to her. She told me that her views were not a problem, and nothing a whack job therapist says will change her views. As I stated with everyone else here, this is a deal breaker for me, and I'm 99.9% sure of you posters would agree. I hope. I explained that I can't respect her views, and I have no respect for how she's choosing to live, and I can be no part of it. I left that night with my basics, and I'm staying in a hotel. I plan on getting my stuff out this week, as I already have an apartment lined up. In the meantime, she's still trying to force her views on me and sending me links to the garbage she is spewing. As soon as I have all my stuff, I will go no contact and find a loving, good person to spend my life with, in time. I'm more angry right now than anything else. I feel sad, yes, but not as much as I would have thought. Well, there's that for an update. I doubt I'll update again, as I'm just going to cut this negative person out of my life completely. Thanks for the advice that I needed to talk to her. I just wish I would have been wrong. And you guys were right about her, just interested in the viewpoints of the asinine neo-Nazi culture crap. Okay, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, not gonna lie, pretty much expected that outcome. With the state of the internet these days and the access people have to these sorts of resources, it's unfortunately all too common. Would I be the a-hole for straight up leaving and ghosting my fiancée after I found out she cheated? Throwaway, as I don't want this story to be associated with my main. I, 28 male, have found out that my fiancée, 30 female, of 2 years, cheated on me. We've been together for 6 years and in love with each other. At least, that's how it was for me. She's been acting more distant and became more protective of her phone for the last 2 months. At first I was not suspicious of anything, but the doubt grew more and more inside me as the time passed, especially after asking her if there was a problem, since she felt distant. She said there's no problem, and that was it. I gave in and snooped on her phone to discover she's been sexting a guy for the last 2 months. I was devastated. At the beginning of our relationship, I clearly told her lying and cheating in any form are the 2 unforgivable actions for me. Yet she decided to cheat on me after 5 years of relationship, and we'd been planning the wedding for this summer. I'm not proud of that, but I checked the old messages as well, but there was no case of cheating other than this. I've been thinking about it for the last few days. I tried to rationalize it and told myself I cannot be leaving a 6-year relationship because of a single mistake, but after having a long talk with my oldest sister, I realized that I should respect myself and leave. She was the one who betrayed the relationship, not me. We don't have any shared assets, and the lease is on my fiancé's name. I have an inherited house, but it's in another city. Tomorrow I'm planning to just get important things from the house, block her from everywhere, and just leave. I don't want closure, to be honest. I just want to grieve the relationship. I thought maybe I did not love her, given that I wanted to leave her right away, but it's not like that. It hurts a lot. I tend to stress eat, masturbate, doom scroll, and spiral into depression in these kinds of situations. I have that experience from my early 20s. By going no contact and returning back to the city where my family lives will give me a circle that can support me. Would I be the a-hole if I straight up left and ghosted her without saying anything? I mean, at the end of the day, it's Opie's preference, but at some point or other, he's going to have to tell her why he left, right? Either that or she'll just fess up. Who knows? Let's go to the comments. If you truly don't want any further contact and to be completely done, you need to at least leave a note and printed screenshots, as others have suggested. Even something as simple as, I know, we're done, don't try to find me, should serve your purpose. Otherwise, you're inviting her and others to come look for you and end up in dramatic confrontation when they find out you're not injured, dead, or stuck in a ditch somewhere. Possibly even police involvement and worrying your friends and family. Surely, if you disappear without a trace, she'll be looking for you by reaching out to them and maybe even reporting you missing. Even if you tell the friends and family who might hear from her when looking for you so they don't worry, what do you expect them to say? That's putting everyone in a bad spot unnecessarily and involving people who have nothing to do with this. Sure, ghost her, but don't do it in a way that drags everyone else into the situation and creates drama for them when it has nothing to do with them. It will just create more drama for yourself when you're trying to grieve and move on. You should heavily consider to share them with important parties, such as your ex's parents, otherwise they might harass you or spread vile lies that your ex might tell them to save face. Remember that it's easier to explain your side before people are filled with rage and doubts about your character. It really sucks to hear what you're going through. I wish you the best of luck navigating it all. Opie replies, it might create legal problems though. I second all the comments that call for you to keep screenshots as evidence. If you do go ahead with ghosting, the likelihood is that without explanation from you, she's going to play the poor abandoned fiancé and claim she has no clue why you left. This way, if you have proof, she can't play the victim and turn you into some sort of monster. I wouldn't personally ghost, I would at least have a conversation, even if it was only to very firmly say, I'm leaving and I want nothing to do with you, do not contact me or my family, and then I would make sure they know why. However, I can't judge you for just wanting to get out immediately. Not the a-hole. Opie replies, I have the screenshot texts. I do not think she'd be able to victimize herself here. Not the a-hole. Sure, an explanation would be nice, but who cares about being nice at this point? Also, I'm sure you don't want to hear her excuses and lies. Leaving this way might be the best for you. If you guys need closure, that can be done in the future. You can only go from here. Good luck. Opie replies, yes, the main thing is that I don't want to hear her lies and excuses. She cheated, and that's it for me. It does not matter why after that. Rightio, onto an update. Firstly, I will not spread screenshots on social media or anywhere. That's illegal and a low blow even if it does not contain sexual parts. It's a private thing and I'm not planning to use these unless she plays dirty. One of my sisters came early in the morning to take me after my fiancé left for work and we packed some small things. As the lease is in her name, I don't have furnitures and stuff. We packed clothes, accessories and other small and personal things. Her car is an SUV type, so we were able to fit most of the required things thankfully. I could not take the ring though. I left the keys under the flower pot and put a sticky on the refrigerator saying, I know, bye. Drive took about 7 hours and we safely arrived to the inherited house. On the ride I received countless messages and calls from unknown numbers, but did not answer. Once we arrived at the home, my eldest sister called me asking if we arrived. She told me fiancé called her crying around 3 p.m, and my sister told her not to contact me. We know everything, and if she tried to pay me in a bad way, we would not only use words, but do not back away from showing solid proof to people. Fiancé requested to know where I am and to speak to me. My sister said I'm fine and she should not contact me in any form. When fiancé said we at least deserve closure, my sister replied, too bad, suck it up. Not exactly that, but that's how I would translate that idiom, and ended the call. I still get calls and messages from unknown numbers. In the end, her father and mother called me. Surprisingly, my fiancé came clean to them, and while they hoped me to give a chance to her, they respected my decision. I thanked them and wished the best of luck. Her father told me he'll be sending the ring's money and asked me for my bank account. He actually sent it by adjusting to inflation, so I got pretty decent money. The house is in an almost perfect condition as we renovated it before Mum passed away. It's just incredibly dusty and dirty after not being used since then. My 3 sisters will come this weekend and we'll clean it together. Eldest broke up with her girlfriend recently, so she plans to live with me after her lease ends in a few months. She's been complaining about the rent prices for a while. My sisters are pretty much my only family, so I only informed them with some really close friends. I am planning on going to therapy after settling here. It may sound weird how close I am with my sisters, but we grew up like that. We grew up with an abusive father, and as I was the only man and youngest one, all the physical and emotional abuse went towards me. We bonded with each other through trauma, and they tend to be a bit protective with me. I think that history is one of the reasons I just did not want to face my ex-fiancée. I thought I got over that considering nothing happened since family therapy we took, but it seems to be there. I'll get into therapy as soon as possible to understand everything and resolve the problems. I will post if there are any updates, but I just hope there will not be any. I just want to have peace and grieve right now. Okay guys, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, pretty well-rounded ending there. Good to hear that the ex-fiancé actually fessed up to the parents and didn't create more drama over lying. But yeah, it must be pretty handy to just have a home you can move into after something like this. Geez, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway, what are your thoughts about that one? Let me know, and we'll go to another story. Okay, jumping over to relationships, this one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, My boyfriend of 11 months hates my job. Throwaway because someone might recognise. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost a year. We are both students and very much in love with each other. Our relationship is nearly picture perfect. Just one problem. He hates my job. It's getting to the point where I'm at a loss for what to do. I'm a magician's assistant. I've worked with the same popular magician for 3 years, and he has 2 other assistants, also college students, who have worked with him for 4+ years. This job is great for me, as I only really have to work on the weekends, and the pay is phenomenal. Issues. 1. The magician. He is a wealthy older man who likes to throw his money around. He's in his late 60s. Before I started dating my boyfriend, he would often take me and the other assistants out to shop for new costumes. He would often end up spending a lot more on us though, buying anything we looked at twice on a whim. Expensive clothes, perfume, etc. He's never made a sexually suggestive move on me or the other girls. He's never even flirtatious besides the occasional comment that we look pretty. I've asked him before why he buys us so much, and he just says because he knows college students are always broke, we work hard, and that he has to keep his assistants happy because we all know his secrets. When I started dating my boyfriend, he was understandably uncomfortable with this. I spoke with the man I worked for and told him that while I was very appreciative, I couldn't accept his gifts any longer. Now he still buys me clothes for the show, but that's it. No more shopping sprees for me. Despite me stopping this, my boyfriend still has issues with him. He's met him countless times, and the magician is always super nice to my boyfriend, even paying for dinner for all of us, showing him tricks, etc. My boyfriend can never give me an exact reason as to why this guy bothers him so much, besides the excessive gifts, but he's still unsatisfied since that stopped. 2. The performances. My boyfriend feels I am objectified during stage performances. Well, the point of a magic assistant is to be a living prop. The weird thing is, I feel like I'm less objectified than other magic assistants. My costume is a cocktail dress most of the time, nothing overly revealing, and the magician always refers to me by name. He occasionally comments on my looks during performances, but I've always felt that was just the nature of the performance industry. 3. The secrets. This is the most frustrating one. My boyfriend feels like I'm keeping secrets because I can't tell him how any of the tricks are done. I'm sorry, but I am bound by contract that I can't reveal anything, no matter the relation. Anyone who knows anything about magic knows how sacred a magician's secrets are, but he feels like I'm keeping secrets just to keep them. Also, since he doesn't know the secrets, he always jumps to the worst conclusion about how they're done, always involving someone seeing me naked or touching me inappropriately, etc. I'm kind of at the end of my rope. I really don't want to have to pick between my boyfriend and my job. Does anyone have any advice or a different perspective on how to approach this? I mean, the more Opie describes the job and her boss, the more I'm wondering what the actual issue is. Like, I don't really see much issue here. Maybe he's just super insecure or something. Not sure. Let's go to the comments. Quitting for him would be a huge mistake, not to mention a dangerous precedent to set. He is jealous. Even if your boss is not giving you things anymore, boyfriend knows he can, and perhaps feels bad that he can't give you things that the boss can. You really need to tell your boyfriend that this is your job, nothing more, and he needs to get over it. As far as objectifying you in the performance, it's a show for God's sake, and if you're uncomfortable about anything, assure him you will tell your boss. Keeping secrets because you can't tell him about the tricks? That is no different than the contract I signed as a social worker not to reveal things about the families I worked with, or when I worked in a medical research lab. It's work stuff, period. If he's assuming you keep other secrets, he has serious trust issues. That could become really tough to live with. Good luck. Opie replies, "Thanks for the reply. I guess I should have mentioned that my boyfriend comes from an extremely wealthy family. I mean, his parents live in a mansion, have servants, own multiple planes, etc. He's in grad school and has never had a financial trouble in his life. He definitely does not shower me in gifts or anything though. He usually insists on paying for dinner and stuff like that, but otherwise our relationship is fairly balanced financially. I'm from an average middle class family, have a scholarship for college, and any money I make goes to school stuff first and foremost. I don't know if that makes any difference for the way he's acting." The magician you work for actually sounds nothing short of respectable, as he stopped doing what made your boyfriend uncomfortable. It sounds like your boyfriend just needs to relax now. Is he afraid some 60-year-old is going to steal his woman? Jesus. Your boyfriend sounds like a huge dick. He's angry you won't tell him magic secrets. Is he a 12-year-old boy? You've already made too many allowances for this dude. Your boss seems nice. Boyfriend of 11 months doesn't approve of your job? Well, he should have said something before you took the job. Except that you already had this job for 2 years when you started dating. This guy's controlling, and it's concerning. Tell him he knew what he was getting into from the beginning, and he can keep his issues to himself. Your boss actually sounds like a kind, considerate man. And Opie, when asked if maybe it's a Hugh Hefner thing that's bothering the boyfriend. Thanks for the response. I do see the point about the entourage of beauties thing. In reality, it isn't like that as much as it seems. The magician is married to a woman who he adores, and she has a good relationship with us, the assistants too. They're a childless older couple, and we all just enjoy each other's company. My boyfriend has even been over to their house for dinner a few times. I guess from my perspective, it's hard to see why he is so defensive, especially because I dropped the behaviour he didn't approve of immediately. My boyfriend and I were friends before we started dating. I would then answer any questions with magician's code, tee-hee. I did that with all of my friends. When we started dating though, and I saw that it really did bother him, I was more clear. I explained to him why magic was such a secretive industry, even told him stories about how the magician I work for lost thousands due to another previous assistant telling his secrets, but told him that I would never do anything that I felt was crossing a moral or sexual line. Okay, let's go to an update. Update, we broke up. It's a long, uninteresting story. I basically asked him once and for all why he hates the magician so much. I stayed calm the whole time, besides crying from frustration, but he got a little heated. It ended up with him saying, "I just can't be in a relationship where I'm not convinced my girlfriend isn't effing some 70-year-old pervert." Reddit, you were right. It was hard to see, because I felt like our relationship was perfect otherwise, but laying out the truth made me realize a few things. His distrust of the guy was a result of his distrust for me, which I didn't see. Thanks for the kind responses. My ex-boyfriend has been texting me every day about working it out. Right now, I'm still in too much pain from the distrust and the comments he said to me. I just feel like if he could grow up, we could be so perfect together. Right now, though, I'm listening to reason/logic/my friends/Reddit/the whole world who is telling me to stay away from him. As for the magician, I went to dinner with him and the other assistants for a meeting about a show next week. I was extremely depressed. He mentioned a shopping trip because he wants a certain look for the next show, and the other assistants urged me to come along, and I agreed. It feels nice to be able to spend time with people who enjoy my company, and I enjoy theirs, and have never done anything to me without kindness in their hearts, without having to answer to a boyfriend who doesn't trust me. Thanks so much, Reddit. And now an additional comment from OP. I did try to work it out. I immediately asked my boss to stop the behaviour that made him uncomfortable. I explained to him why I couldn't reveal magic secrets. I did my best to show him that I'm a loving, faithful girlfriend. The cheating accusations and him yelling at me were just too much to bear. I have always been faithful in all relationships and did my best to make him happy. He has shown that he doesn't respect my job, he doesn't understand how valuable my job is, being broke in college, and that he doesn't trust me around my nearly 70-year-old boss who I've worked for 3 years and have always respected my boundaries. I've had issues in my personal life, grief issues, that I can't resolve with such negativity directed at me by one person who is supposed to support you. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, how warped does his view of his girlfriend have to be for him to accuse her of cheating with her 70-year-old boss? Like that comment said, she's not working in the bloody Playboy mansion or anything like that. I reckon he's going to look back on that relationship and realise he fumbled the bag big time. But yeah, good on Opie for getting out of there, and I hope the guy buys her something nice when they go shopping next time. What are your thoughts about that one? Let me know in the comments. Alright, let's go to another story. Okay, we're on Am I the A-hole? This one was written by user L Japira, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for laughing when my mum said it's my fault my brother got punched? Before my brother went to uni, we had a massive argument. I just discovered that he slept with my now ex-girlfriend. She confessed to me, which led to me breaking up with her. He claimed it was a one-time mistake and meant nothing, but I still told him I no longer want to see him again. He lives with our mum while I live with dad. Later that day, mum visited, said that he kept his pent-up anger and then unleashed it at uni where he kicked a campus cat. That led to him getting punched by someone who studies at the same faculty. She then told me that I should visit, also adding that it was my fault. At that point, I just laughed. It was an incredulous laughter, rather than one born out of amusement. Mum narrowed her eyes at me and said I shouldn't be indifferent to how she's feeling. Update, I sent her the following text. Alright Mum, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I held him accountable for what he did, and I'm also sorry that the guy at his uni held him accountable. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole for me. I mean, the guy kicks a poor cat because he's just angry. He's obviously got some issues. Let's see what the comments think. I'd punch your brother if I could. Poor cat. Your mum is a clown, dude. I'm sorry. I too laughed while reading. Not the a-hole. Dude openly kicked a cat around other people. He's lucky he only got punched once. Everyone can change. People do for better or worse all the time. But your brother is a douche. And on to a quick update. So some of you said that he was lucky to get only one punch for kicking the cat. Well, my mum just called me. He's been beaten up twice for it since. No sympathy for him though. She still wanted me to visit, so I told her no, and when she insisted, I blocked her. We are now no contact. Seems like there's a very simple rule in life. You beat up a cat, then you get beaten up yourself. Seems fair to me. But yeah, the brother's got issues and the mum's delusional. Nothing more to see here. My fiancé is uncomfortable with my best friend and his wife being in our wedding. My fiancé and I, male and female, both 30, fairly socially liberal, together 5 years, interracial couple, not religious. My best friend and his wife, 30 male, 27 female, strongly Christian, social conservatives, married 7 years. My best friend is going to be my best man, and I was his best man. Our friendship is somewhat unusual because we are pretty much opposites as far as political and personal beliefs are concerned, but my policy with him is to never discuss these issues so as to avoid conflict, and it works. My fiancé used to like Best Man, BM, and his wife, BMW, when they first met, but Best Man wife likes to post about her personal views a lot on Facebook, and through that, fiancé has learned a lot about Best Man and Best Man's wife's political views, and it's changed her opinion of them. Topic of Best Man's wife Facebook posts in the past have included condemnation of homosexuality, abortion, and vaccination. My fiancée is not very political, but she has told me she has trouble interacting with Best Man's wife, knowing that she is homophobic, among other things. She avoids these topics in conversation like my policy, and can have friendly conversations and behave cordially, but prefers not to spend time with this couple. She has confessed that she wishes they were not in our wedding, but has not told me outright that they can't be in it, basically leaving the choice to me. I told her our differences in political opinion shouldn't affect our relationship because these topics are just hypotheticals to us. We're not gay, we've never had an abortion, and none of us have kids to vaccinate. None of these affect us personally yet. Maybe in the future, but there's no reason they can't be in our wedding now. But then fiancé said that people like my best man and the best man's wife tend to be highly judgmental, and she doesn't want to feel under scrutiny on our wedding. Our wedding will be secular, and she thinks best man and best man's wife, who are strongly religious, will frown at that. We are also an interracial couple, and she thinks that homophobia goes hand in hand with racism, despite best man and best man's wife having never made racist comments against her or our relationship. Fiancé seems to think they can't be homophobic without also being secretly racist too. So I can either keep best man and his wife in our wedding, knowing that fiancé will be uncomfortable, or tell them they're not invited and have to come up with an explanation why. Let's see what the comments think. Assigning human rights issues as mere irrelevant hypotheticals says a lot about the kind of person you are. If you have children, they will face issues you can't even begin to understand right now, because you can't even put yourself in your wife's shoes at this moment. I hope you become the kind of man she deserves. Oh, have you actually thought about this? From some of your responses, here is what you're saying. My best man and his wife are against interracial marriages but haven't said anything about my interracial marriage because my minority wife is of a minority they deem less filthy than the other minorities. I find it interesting that you don't mention anything about this in your main post. Your fiancé knows they're judging the F out of her. You don't want to rock the boat with your friend, but what are you saying to your fiancé? Your bigoted friend's feelings are more important to you than her being uncomfortable on her wedding day. Remember that they'll be in many pictures, and every time she looks at them, she'll be reminded of that. Quote, I told her our differences in political opinion shouldn't affect our relationship because these topics are just hypotheticals to us. We're not gay, we've never had an abortion, and none of us have kids to vaccinate. Funny how you conveniently left out that your wife is East Asian and that your friends have made racist remarks about other minorities. Racism is not a hypothetical to your wife. She is a woman of colour and has most likely faced racism at some point in her life. You are a guy about to enter an interracial marriage who may have mixed-race children in the future, but you completely dismiss your wife's perfectly reasonable dislike of your racist friends. Marriage is about being a team, and you already seem to be siding with your white racist friends over her. Opie adds additional info in the comments. It boils down to this: they support us and our marriage. The problem is, though, fiancé doesn't really think they support our marriage 100%. While they're not overtly racist, my best man and his wife have made uncomfortable comments that border on racism against one ethnic minority, which is not the minority my fiancé belongs to, but nonetheless, she thinks they're secretly racist and disapproves of our marriage. And my best man and his wife made the comments about black people. For example, one comment expressing disapproval of white and black marriages. My fiancé is East Asian. Best man and wife have never shown racist attitudes against Asians. If they had, I would have done something by now. In fact, they even seem to have favourable opinions of Asians compared to other groups. Fiancé thinks racism against one minority is equivalent to racism against all minorities, which I definitely understand, but since their prejudices are fairly mild and don't directly involve us, I don't think it'll hurt to just ignore it for the sake of keeping the peace. Yeah, touchy subject and tricky situation, but I think that last comment before was pretty spot on, about the fact that it's probably going to pop up in their lives at some point, and Opie's going to have to deal with it. And right now he's showing heaps of signs of really not wanting to deal with it, and that's a red flag to his fiancée. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know in the comments. Okay, let's go to an update. I read all the comments from last thread, including the ones I didn't reply to. There were some strong points made, and it got me thinking. I talked to my fiancé about best man and his wife. It took some digging to get the truth out of her. She is not very political or vocal about social issues and clearly didn't want to discuss them. I talked to her one night, hit a wall, gave up and tried again a week later. It finally came out that best man and his wife have expressed opinions about her that I was not aware of. Among other things, topics mentioned were 1. How Asians are taking over American universities in some places and how this should be curbed. 2. How our mixed-race kids are going to be confused about their identity and that children should have a unified nuclear family. And 3. How her parents speak with an accent, even though both of my fiancé's parents are highly educated professionals and their English is pretty darn good, especially considering they learned it in their 30s. As well as some other less savoury stuff not specific to East Asians. So it turns out a lot of the comments were correct in speculating that my best friend and his wife were secretly a lot more bigoted than they let on in front of me. It was shocking. Everything my fiancé told me came out of their mouths when I wasn't around, but at the same time, I'm not completely surprised. Throughout our entire friendship, I've kind of just willfully ignored the aspects of his beliefs that made me uncomfortable and prided myself on being able to stay friends with someone who didn't share the same opinions as me. About a month before the wedding, I asked my cousin to step up to be the best man. It was kind of half-assed, This cousin is not super close to me, but he was the only male relative I could ask. It didn't go over too well, but my fiancée and I were both more relaxed at the wedding than we would have been otherwise. Sometime after the wedding we were talking about my friend, and my wife came clean with one more thing. He had hit on her pretty aggressively at several points in the past, and one of these incidents happened when I was out of state for a while. This was while he was with his wife. I cut contact with both of them after that. I told him why, and left it to him to explain to his wife, if he does. Wow, there you go. Don't know if I saw that coming, but honestly I'm not surprised. And good to hear that Opie listened to his wife's concerns and ultimately decided to cut them out of the wedding, even before he found out about the hitting on part. But yeah, all in all, pretty good ending. What do you guys think about that one? Let me know in the comments. Okay, let's jump to another story. Okay, this next one was written by user Archgirl, and it's titled, I think I'm in an abusive relationship and needing an escape plan. I think my boyfriend of 3 years is financially abusing me, and everything went too fast, and now I feel trapped. I immigrated to Austria 3 years ago and met a guy at work and we started dating. He came with the story that he had a vasectomy, so no babies, but tell that to my pregnant self a couple of months later. I felt really ashamed as every time he told the story from the vasectomy to doctors or someone else, I felt like a cheater. I never cheated. We decided to keep the baby, so then I was pregnant and unemployed, as I had only a temporary job when I arrived. I'd saved a little money while working, and he said he would take care of everything during the pregnancy, and that when the baby came, I would get childcare assistance from the country. We moved to an apartment and everything looked good. He asked me to put the internet and cable bill in my name as he was paying everything else, then also a car and car insurance in my name. I agreed as he said he would pay and he was putting a roof over my head. By the time the baby comes, I'm still thinking everything is okay, but then we have stress about the citizenship. I wanted the baby to have dual, but until now she only has Austrian and he refuses to make the second. She's already 2 years old. I doubt he will agree to make it, and I don't ask anymore. Then comes the time for the paperwork, and he says that it takes time for the childcare money to come. He had access to my account so that he could take care of it, or so I thought. I never got the childcare. Until today, I don't know why. He said it was missing in my resident permit, and he was also making it, and never made it. He decides he isn't happy where we're living and wants to move to the other side of the country, with the excuse that he wants to be closer to his family. I say goodbye to my friends. I had some but not many, and so we move. One day he says he's having trouble with my Austrian debit card and he asked me the code for my home country bank card. I was with my daughter and just wanting to go home, so I gave it to him so he could finish paying the supermarket. After that he keeps the cards with him almost all the time. He uses the ATM and only gives me cash and keeps both of my bank cards. We have a fight, not physical, he never hit me, and he says he will leave me as he gives me the cards back. He starts having problems with the landlord, so we move again. We would stay a couple of months and then move. One day, before moving, he says that he doesn't have money for the deposit, and I have the option to ask my parents for money, or we sleep under a bridge and take our daughter to an orphanage. That was the moment I stopped trusting him. He had showed me for over a week a fake key for our new house. He used that, so I had to beg my parents for money. It went all to him. He used a couple €1,000 in maybe 2 or 3 months. When it was time for me to start to look for work, he sabotaged me all the way through. I applied for a job that I liked, but they were taking their time to decide as I didn't speak German so well. Of course I kept looking. As soon as I found one, the day before I started, he made a story that the first job had contacted him and was giving me a contract and that I shouldn't go for this second job. He even pretended to call the first company, and then he would always say, "You heard me talking to them, didn't you? You understood everything I said?" I started noticing that his phone calls looked fake. One time the phone even rang in the middle of one of his calls. I was desperate for work because I needed it to have a residence permit in the country through my work. He said he couldn't make it, though we're living together. And he tricked me always with my dream job, that they'd called him and were only finishing the paperwork to give me the contract. With luck, I ended up finding a job. He stayed with our daughter because he was too sick to work. After 1 week, he says I have to quit and that he can't manage the kid. If I don't quit, he will call them to quit me. After many discussions, I stay at this job where I'm still working. In the first couple months, he still uses my bank card. He keeps sending it into overdraft, hundreds and negative. When my paycheck comes, it hardly covers everything. And he stays in the house, says his back hurts, and that he doesn't know what type of work he wants. Always an excuse. In my third month of work, I found out my wages are starting to get garnished for something he said he paid for months ago. He says he'll fix, and he'll pay it. And it's the internet from our first apartment, from when I was pregnant, unemployed, and he said he'd always pay it. After some months, our daughter goes to kindergarten and he ends up finding a job. I keep getting angry because he keeps taking my bank card and using it without telling me, even while he has his own money. He even went to open a second account in my name to use as his one, where he would keep his money in secret from me. I believe he makes this account so that the courts can't find his account through his name. I have complete access to this account now, and he receives his paycheck there. I only let him have a debit card but not online access, so he can't take credit or anything. Planning on closing it after he gets and picks up his next paycheck. Last week he started working late and I come home before him. In the mail were late payment notices in my name, stuff that I never knew wasn't paid. My favourite debt is my last year birthday gift. He insisted I get new glasses. I couldn't even ask the price. It was a surprise for me. Really lovely, you would think. Not even when I picked them days later, the man from the shop said everything was due. My surprise is now when I get a letter from court where I owe the glasses my birthday gift, and that this letter was the 5th or 6th due payment notice. He was hiding my mail and probably tossing it in the trash. I decide to go to the courthouse and see what's up, and I have many debts, some from stuff I've never heard about, some from stuff he said he paid, and some from stuff that he took money from my account to pay. The courthouse said he never paid even €1 for my debts, and his own debts are only being paid by wage garnishing. Now I keep my cards by me, and I'm replacing them with the new codes. When I say I want him to go away, he uses now our daughter's custody not to go. Some time ago, he even tried to scare me because if I wanted my daughter, I would have to go through his lawyer, that he says is one of the best. I'm scared from the future. He has an aggressive personality. I'm afraid from when he is alone with our daughter. He never hit me, but I feel constantly like I'm walking on eggshells. I'm afraid that my job will fire me, and I wouldn't even be able to collect unemployment. I don't even know if I could take my daughter to my home country with me, so that at least I could live with my parents rent-free. I'm going tomorrow to a lawyer, but I've not even an idea of where to start to talk. I think I may consider therapy also, in the future. Geez, this is scary. I mean, this woman's in pretty deep. I'm a bit like her, I wouldn't even know where to start. Let's go to the comments. You need real help, not comments of Redditors. I suppose you're a Portuguese woman living in Austria, not knowing German language well, having a daughter and a partner who seems to be a manipulative F who brought you into big trouble socially and financially. You have to find help of an Austrian charitable or non-profit organisation. I don't speak German, so I can't help you search. I've found this page and maybe you can start searching at it. But you can also ask some people from the Catholic Church, people from some municipal office. You can search on the internet, but in your situation you must find real people or organisations in Austria. This subreddit is inhabited mostly by US feminists that maybe know that Waltz is from Vienna, but about legal and social situations in Austria they know less than nothing. I live in Prague, so I know a little bit more about Austria, and I'm sure you can find a charitable or non-profit organisation that you could consult and make a plan based on real situations in the country you live in. At worst, you can go in a church and after a mass, ask people for advice. I would also suggest that you find a woman's shelter and talk to the people there to get some advice. They're very familiar with women in your situation and can help you find a direction. It won't cost you anything. I think you have put up with this man for years because you wanted your daughter to have her father. I'm sorry that didn't work out for you. I certainly hope you get the help you deserve. Note to all women, not just OP. Do not go to a foreign country with a man that you are not 100% sure is trustworthy. Once you're there, he will have all the power. Language, connections, familiarity with the culture, and local governments almost always favour their own nationals in a dispute. It's an extremely precarious situation to be in, and it's only worth it in the rarest of situations. Never do it if you have even an inkling of a concern about the guy involved. I've seen this happen to far too many women. It's horrible. Now, in regards to OP, where in Austria are you? I went to school there, so I'm quite familiar with the system and also know many Austrians, but certain things vary from one Bundesland to the next. Stay strong. Okay, onto an update, 1 year after the original. Some months have passed since this, and I would like to make an update of my current situation. I decided to stay in Austria as I still think it's best for me and my child's future. There are some more details that went into the decision, as my child has special needs, with a bigger public support here as in Portugal, and also that she has only Austrian citizenship. I'm not sure how that would turn out if I just left the country with her. I went to a lawyer and his advice was that the first priority was to get myself a place. He indicated to me the way to get a social housing apartment through the city council, where I'm staying for the past 6 months with my daughter. After that, the lawyer started to try to get me out of some debts that I haven't made myself and was still in court. The ones that I had signed or were already thought judgment unfortunately stayed, and I have to start paying them. I'm lucky that my family helps me and I'm able to manage it. I was also able to get on some welfare and mandatory child support. In November, my ex went to jail for frauds that he had committed. Although he is there until the end of the year, it wouldn't surprise me that he'd get extra time, as he had made extra debts and frauds that are not still accounted in the sentence. He's also labelled as someone untrustworthy by police and in the nearby community. As this is a really small city, I don't think he has a chance to turn this back on me, as I'm the bad guy or something. I have also tried to get sole custody of my daughter, which came through as of last week. Because of him being in jail and not replying to my sole custody request, it was a way simpler process than I would have thought it would be. I would like to thank everyone who commented on my first post. That helped me to realise the severity of the situation and the damage that was already made. It helped cement that decision to leave him as quick as possible. Yeah, it's great to hear that the police caught up to him as well, and that the child custody thing was a lot easier than, it normally would have been, like Opie said. Okay, on to the final update, 6 years later. After 6 years, I can proudly say that my life now is pretty boring. I try to protect my daughter's right to have contact with their father, keeping casual encounters centered around her, always supervised, but that ship also sailed away. As I suspected, my ex got his sentence extended and stayed over 3 years in jail, where he would get some free weekends and I would let him visit us. As soon as he completed his sentence, he made a last visit, didn't make any more effort to keep contact with us, and refused to pay child support. As much as I think my daughter had this contact right, it stopped making sense. For the last years, we don't have any contact with my ex, and the only thing between us is the court-mandated child support that is managed through CPS. I keep contacting my daughter's grandmother, but she also didn't keep in contact with her son, and we hardly speak about him. I kept sole custody and requested my daughter double citizenship. My daughter started school in 2021, and everything was pretty ordinary. I didn't particularly like my daughter's school system, so in 2022 we made a leap of faith and packed all the things and moved to Vienna. Everything went way better than I ever thought. New daughter's school is great, we found a good apartment which I was free to decorate as I like, and I was able to keep my pretty boring job. I have complete control of my finances and I'm free to make any decision I want. We are in a very stable condition, financially secure, with lots of healthy routines. We started to build a network of friends. I now have contact with my daughter's disability association. I started attending single mothers events. I participate in my neighbourhood community gardening project. It is great to feel that I'm part of multiple communities. I enjoy my independent life, and I'm so happy that all the reasons that motivated my first Reddit post is just a distant memory. Oh wow, great ending all in all there. I feel like those good endings are becoming all too rare on Reddit these days. My fiancé is uncomfortable with my best friend and his wife being in our wedding. My fiancé and I, male and female, both 30, fairly socially liberal, together 5 years, interracial couple, not religious. My best friend and his wife, 30 male, 27 female, strongly Christian, social conservatives, married 7 years. My best friend is going to be my best man, and I was his best man. Our friendship is somewhat unusual because we are pretty much opposites as far as political and personal beliefs are concerned, but my policy with him is to never discuss these issues so as to avoid conflict, and it works. My fiancé used to like Best Man, BM, and his wife, BMW, when they first met, But best man wife likes to post about her personal views a lot on Facebook, and through that, fiancé has learned a lot about best man and best man's wife's political views, and it's changed her opinion of them. Topic of best man's wife Facebook posts in the past have included condemnation of homosexuality, abortion, and vaccination. My fiancé is not very political, but she has told me she has trouble interacting with best man's wife, knowing that she is homophobic, among other things. She avoids these topics in conversation like my policy, and can have friendly conversations and behave cordially, but prefers not to spend time with this couple. She has confessed that she wishes they were not in our wedding, but has not told me outright that they can't be in it, basically leaving the choice to me. I told her our differences in political opinion shouldn't affect our relationship because these topics are just hypotheticals to us. We're not gay, we've never had an abortion, and none of us have kids to vaccinate. None of these affect us personally yet. Maybe in the future, but there's no reason they can't be in our wedding now. But then fiancé said that people like my best man and the best man's wife tend to be highly judgmental, and she doesn't want to feel under scrutiny on our wedding. Our wedding will be secular, and she thinks best man and best man's wife, who are strongly religious, will frown at that. We are also an interracial couple, and she thinks that homophobia goes hand in hand with racism, despite best man and best man's wife having never made racist comments against her or our relationship. Fiancé seems to think they can't be homophobic without also being secretly racist too. So I can either keep best man and his wife in our wedding, knowing that fiancé will be uncomfortable, or tell them they're not invited and have to come up with an explanation why. Let's see what the comments think. Assigning human rights issues as mere irrelevant hypotheticals says a lot about the kind of person you are. If you have children, they will face issues you can't even begin to understand right now because you can't even put yourself in your wife's shoes at this moment. I hope you become the kind of man she deserves. Oh, have you actually thought about this? From some of your responses, here is what you're saying. My best man and his wife are against interracial marriages but haven't said anything about my interracial marriage because my minority wife is of a minority they deem less filthy than the other minorities. I find it interesting that you don't mention anything about this in your main post. Your fiancé knows they're judging the F out of her. You don't want to rock the boat with your friend, but what are you saying to your fiancé? Your bigoted friend's feelings are more important to you than her being uncomfortable on her wedding day. Remember that they'll be in many pictures, and every time she looks at them, she'll be reminded of that. Quote, I told her our differences in political opinion shouldn't affect our relationship because these topics are just hypotheticals to us. We're not gay, we've never had an abortion, and none of us have kids to vaccinate. Funny how you conveniently left out that your wife is East Asian and that your friends have made racist remarks about other minorities. Racism is not a hypothetical to your wife. She is a woman of colour and has most likely faced racism at some point in her life. You are a guy about to enter an interracial marriage who may have mixed-race children in the future, but you completely dismiss your wife's perfectly reasonable dislike of your racist friends. Marriage is about being a team, and you already seem to be siding with your white racist friends over her. Opie adds additional info in the comments. It boils down to this: they support us and our marriage. The problem is though, fiancé doesn't really think they support our marriage 100%. While they're not overtly racist, my best man and his wife have made uncomfortable comments that border on racism against one ethnic minority, which is not the minority my fiancé belongs to, but nonetheless she thinks they're secretly racist and disapproves of our marriage. And my best man and his wife made the comments about black people. For example, one comment expressing disapproval of white and black marriages. My fiancé is East Asian. Best man and wife have never shown racist attitudes against Asians. If they had, I would have done something by now. In fact, they even seem to have favourable opinions of Asians compared to other groups. Fiancé thinks racism against one minority is equivalent to racism against all minorities, which I definitely understand, but since their prejudices are fairly mild and don't directly involve us, I don't think it'll hurt to just ignore it for the sake of keeping the peace. Yeah, touchy subject and tricky situation, but I think that last comment before was pretty spot on, about the fact that it's probably going to pop up in their lives at some point, and Opie's going to have to deal with it. And right now he's showing heaps of signs of really not wanting to deal with it, and that's a red flag to his fiancée. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know in the comments. Okay, let's go to an update. I read all the comments from last thread, including the ones I didn't reply to. There were some strong points made, and it got me thinking. I talked to my fiancé about best man and his wife. It took some digging to get the truth out of her. She is not very political or vocal about social issues and clearly didn't want to discuss them. I talked to her one night, hit a wall, gave up and tried again a week later. It finally came out that best man and his wife have expressed opinions about her that I was not aware of. Among other things, topics mentioned were 1. How Asians are taking over American universities in some places and how this should be curbed. 2. How our mixed-race kids are going to be confused about their identity and that children should have a unified nuclear family. And 3. How her parents speak with an accent, even though both of my fiancé's parents are highly educated professionals and their English is pretty darn good, especially considering they learned it in their 30s. As well as some other less savoury stuff not specific to East Asians. So it turns out a lot of the comments were correct in speculating that my best friend and his wife were secretly a lot more bigoted than they let on in front of me. It was shocking. Everything my fiancé told me came out of their mouths when I wasn't around, but at the same time, I'm not completely surprised. Throughout our entire friendship, I've kind of just willfully ignored the aspects of his beliefs that made me uncomfortable and prided myself on being able to stay friends with someone who didn't share the same opinions as me. About a month before the wedding, I asked my cousin to step up to be the best man. It was kind of half-assed. This cousin is not super close to me, but he was the only male relative I could ask. It didn't go over too well, but my fiancé and I were both more relaxed at the wedding than we would have been otherwise. Sometime after the wedding, we were talking about my friend, and my wife came clean with one more thing. He had hit on her pretty aggressively at several points in the past, and one of these incidents happened when I was out of state for a while. This was while he was with his wife. I cut contact with both of them after that. I told him why, and left it to him to explain to his wife, if he does. Wow, there you go. Don't know if I saw that coming, but honestly I'm not surprised. And good to hear that Opie listened to his wife's concerns and ultimately decided to cut them out of the wedding, even before he found out about the hitting on part. But yeah, all in all, pretty good ending. What do you guys think about that one? Let me know in the comments. Okay, let's jump to another story. Okay, this next one was written by user Archgirl, and it's titled, I think I'm in an abusive relationship and needing an escape plan. I think my boyfriend of 3 years is financially abusing me, and everything went too fast, and now I feel trapped. I immigrated to Austria 3 years ago and met a guy at work and we started dating. He came with the story that he had a vasectomy, so no babies, but tell that to my pregnant self a couple of months later. I felt really ashamed as every time he told the story from the vasectomy to doctors or someone else, I felt like a cheater. I never cheated. We decided to keep the baby, so then I was pregnant and unemployed, as I had only a temporary job when I arrived. I'd saved a little money while working, and he said he would take care of everything during the pregnancy, and that when the baby came, I would get childcare assistance from the country. We moved to an apartment and everything looked good. He asked me to put the internet and cable bill in my name as he was paying everything else, then also a car and car insurance in my name. I agreed as he said he would pay and he was putting a roof over my head. By the time the baby comes, I'm still thinking everything is okay, but then we have stress about the citizenship. I wanted the baby to have dual, but until now she only has Austrian and he refuses to make the second. She's already 2 years old. I doubt he will agree to make it, and I don't ask anymore. Then comes the time for the paperwork, and he says that it takes time for the childcare money to come. He had access to my account so that he could take care of it, or so I thought. I never got the childcare. Until today, I don't know why. He said it was missing in my resident permit, and he was also making it, and never made it. He decides he isn't happy where we're living and wants to move to the other side of the country, with the excuse that he wants to be closer to his family. I say goodbye to my friends. I had some but not many, and so we move. One day he says he's having trouble with my Austrian debit card and he asked me the code for my home country bank card. I was with my daughter and just wanting to go home, so I gave it to him so he could finish paying the supermarket. After that he keeps the cards with him almost all the time. He uses the ATM and only gives me cash and keeps both of my bank cards. We have a fight, not physical, he never hit me, and he says he will leave me as he gives me the cards back. He starts having problems with the landlord, so we move again. We would stay a couple of months and then move. One day, before moving, he says that he doesn't have money for the deposit, and I have the option to ask my parents for money, or we sleep under a bridge and take our daughter to an orphanage. That was the moment I stopped trusting him. He had showed me for over a week a fake key for our new house. He used that, so I had to beg my parents for money. It went all to him. He used a couple €1,000 in maybe 2 or 3 months. When it was time for me to start to look for work, he sabotaged me all the way through. I applied for a job that I liked, but they were taking their time to decide as I didn't speak German so well. Of course I kept looking. As soon as I found one, the day before I started, he made a story that the first job had contacted him and was giving me a contract and that I shouldn't go for this second job. He even pretended to call the first company, and then he would always say, "You heard me talking to them, didn't you? You understood everything I said?" I started noticing that his phone calls looked fake. One time the phone even rang in the middle of one of his calls. I was desperate for work because I needed it to have a residence permit in the country through my work. He said he couldn't make it, though we're living together. And he tricked me always with my dream job, that they'd called him and were only finishing the paperwork to give me the contract. With luck, I ended up finding a job. He stayed with our daughter because he was too sick to work. After 1 week, he says I have to quit and that he can't manage the kid. If I don't quit, he will call them to quit me. After many discussions, I stay at this job where I'm still working. In the first couple months, he still uses my bank card. He keeps sending it into overdraft, hundreds and negative. When my paycheck comes, it hardly covers everything. And he stays in the house, says his back hurts, and that he doesn't know what type of work he wants. Always an excuse. In my 3rd month of work, I found out my wages are starting to get garnished for something he said he paid for months ago. He says he'll fix, and he'll pay it. And it's the internet from our first apartment, from when I was pregnant, unemployed, and he said he'd always pay it. After some months, our daughter goes to kindergarten and he ends up finding a job. I keep getting angry because he keeps taking my bank card and using it without telling me, even while he has his own money. He even went to open a second account in my name to use as his one, where he would keep his money in secret from me. I believe he makes this account so that the courts can't find his account through his name. I have complete access to this account now, and he receives his paycheck there. I only let him have a debit card, but not online access, so he can't take credit or anything. Planning on closing it after he gets and picks up his next paycheck. Last week he started working late, and I come home before him. In the mail were late payment notices in my name, stuff that I never knew wasn't paid. My favourite debt is my last year birthday gift. He insisted I get new glasses. I couldn't even ask the price. It was a surprise for me. Really lovely, you would think. Not even when I picked them days later, the man from the shop said everything was due. My surprise is now when I get a letter from court where I owe the glasses, my birthday gift, and that this letter was the 5th or 6th due payment notice. He was hiding my mail and probably tossing it in the trash. I decide to go to the courthouse and see what's up, and I have many debts, some from stuff I've never heard about, some from stuff he said he paid, and some from stuff that he took money from my account to pay. The courthouse said he never paid even €1 for my debts, and his own debts are only being paid by wage garnishing. Now I keep my cards by me, and I'm replacing them with the new codes. When I say I want him to go away, he uses now our daughter's custody not to go. Some time ago, he even tried to scare me because if I wanted my daughter, I would have to go through his lawyer, that he says is one of the best. I'm scared from the future. He has an aggressive personality. I'm afraid from when he is alone with our daughter. He never hit me, but I feel constantly like I'm walking on eggshells. I'm afraid that my job will fire me, and I wouldn't even be able to collect unemployment. I don't even know if I could take my daughter to my home country with me, so that at least I could live with my parents rent-free. I'm going tomorrow to a lawyer, but I've not even an idea of where to start to talk. I think I may consider therapy also, in the future. Geez, this is scary. I mean, this woman's in pretty deep. I'm a bit like her, I wouldn't even know where to start. Let's go to the comments. You need real help, not comments of Redditors. I suppose you're a Portuguese woman living in Austria, not knowing German language well, having a daughter and a partner who seems to be a manipulative F who brought you into big trouble socially and financially. You have to find help of an Austrian charitable or non-profit organisation. I don't speak German, so I can't help you search. I've found this page and maybe you can start searching at it. But you can also ask some people from the Catholic Church, people from some municipal office. You can search on the internet, but in your situation you must find real people or organisations in Austria. This subreddit is inhabited mostly by US feminists that maybe know that Waltz is from Vienna, but about legal and social situations in Austria they know less than nothing. I live in Prague, so I know a little bit more about Austria, and I'm sure you can find a charitable or non-profit organisation that you could consult and make a plan based on real situations in the country you live in. At worst, you can go in a church and after a mass, ask people for advice. I would also suggest that you find a women's shelter and talk to the people there to get some advice. They're very familiar with women in your situation and can help you find a direction. It won't cost you anything. I think you have put up with this man for years because you wanted your daughter to have her father. I'm sorry that didn't work out for you. I certainly hope you get the help you deserve. Note to all women, not just OP, do not go to a foreign country with a man that you are not 100% sure is trustworthy. Once you're there, he will have all the power. Language, connections, familiarity with the culture, and local governments almost always favour their own nationals in a dispute. It's an extremely precarious situation to be in, and it's only worth it in the rarest of situations. Never do it if you have even an inkling of a concern about the guy involved. I've seen this happen to far too many women. It's horrible. Now, in regards to OP, where in Austria are you? I went to school there, so I'm quite familiar with the system, and also know many Austrians. But certain things vary from one Bundesland to the next. Stay strong. Okay, onto an update, 1 year after the original. Some months have passed since this and I would like to make an update of my current situation. I decided to stay in Austria as I still think it's best for me and my child's future. There are some more details that went into the decision as my child has special needs with a bigger public support here as in Portugal, and also that she has only Austrian citizenship. I'm not sure how that would turn out if I just left the country with her. I went to a lawyer and his advice was that the first priority was to get myself a place. He indicated to me the way to get a social housing apartment through the city council, where I'm staying for the past 6 months with my daughter. After that, the lawyer started to try to get me out of some debts that I haven't made myself and was still in court. The ones that I had signed or were already thought judgment unfortunately stayed and I have to start paying them. I'm lucky that my family helps me and I'm able to manage it. I was also able to get on some welfare and mandatory child support. In November, my ex went to jail for frauds that he had committed. Although he is there until the end of the year, it wouldn't surprise me that he'd get extra time, as he had made extra debts and frauds that are not still accounted in the sentence. He's also labelled as someone untrustworthy by police and in the nearby community. As this is a really small city, I don't think he has a chance to turn this back on me, as I'm the bad guy or something. I have also tried to get sole custody of my daughter, which came through as of last week. Because of him being in jail and not replying to my sole custody request, it was a way simpler process than I would have thought it would be. I would like to thank everyone who commented on my first post. That helped me to realise the severity of the situation and the damage that was already made. It helped cement that decision to leave him as quick as possible. Yeah, it's great to hear that the police caught up to him as well, and that the child custody thing was a lot easier than, it normally would have been, like Opie said. Okay, on to the final update, 6 years later. After 6 years, I can proudly say that my life now is pretty boring. I try to protect my daughter's right to have contact with their father, keeping casual encounters centred around her, always supervised, but that ship also sailed away. As I had suspected, my ex got his sentence extended and stayed over 3 years in jail, where he would get some free weekends and I would let him visit us. As soon as he completed his sentence, he made a last visit, didn't make any more effort to keep contact with us, and refused to pay child support. As much as I think my daughter had this contact right, it stopped making sense. For the last years, we don't have any contact with my ex, and the only thing between us is the court-mandated child support that is managed through CPS. I keep contacting my daughter's grandmother, but she also didn't keep in contact with her son, and we hardly speak about him. I kept sole custody and requested my daughter double citizenship. My daughter started school in 2021, and everything was pretty ordinary. I didn't particularly like my daughter's school system, so in 2022 we made a leap of faith and packed all the things and moved to Vienna. Everything went way better than I ever thought. New daughter's school is great, we found a good apartment which I was free to decorate as I like, and I was able to keep my pretty boring job. I have complete control of my finances and I'm free to make any decision I want. We are in a very stable condition, financially secure, with lots of healthy routines. We started to build a network of friends. I now have contact with my daughter's disability association. I started attending single mothers events. I participate in my neighbourhood community gardening project. It is great to feel that I'm part of multiple communities. I enjoy my independent life, and I'm so happy that all the reasons that motivated my first Reddit post is just a distant memory. Oh wow, great ending all in all there. I feel like those good endings are becoming all too rare on Reddit these days. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted when my boyfriend confirmed that his ex was the right person, wrong time? My boyfriend and I are in our late 20s and we've been seriously together for 1 year now. We were hanging out with some of his friends and they fondly talked about his ex who he dated for over 4 years and broke up because she got a new job in a new city and broke up. Thought that everything was fine until a girlfriend told me that she heard my boyfriend say that his ex was the right person, wrong time, and cautioned me. When we got home I asked him this and he confirmed he said that, and I hated just how cavalier his response was. He said sure, she was the right person at the wrong time, but I've moved on and love you now. Like, he doesn't get it. I don't want to be someone he has to move on to. I don't see why he didn't see a problem with what he said. Sure, he might be faithful to me, but it gave me the ick that for him, she's the one that got away. I told him all of my feelings and he accused me of being insecure. I said that I needed some space to think about our relationship and whether I can continue being with someone who still considers an ex that one great love of his life and not his current partner. Am I the insecure one here? Look, I've been in relationships before, and yes, I did love them at the time, but meeting my current partner trumps all those past feelings, and I never had this philosophy that the right person breaks up with you, because I believe in the saying that if they wanted, they would. Makes it easier to move on. What he feels dents my trust in this relationship and makes me feel like I'm not worthy of being his biggest love. Am I the a-hole? Yeah, sounds like he definitely still has feelings for her, and considering that she probably broke it off with him as well, I imagine it would turn into a bigger problem if she came back. Let's go to the comments. Your feelings are valid. Honestly, I'd be worried that if she came home, I'd be dropped like a hot potato. Not the a-hole. They dated 4 years and she was the one who broke it off. She moved away. He wasn't the one who wanted to end it, and he had no option to be able to continue it. So what happens if she reaches out to him in the future? The question needs to be addressed by him. Right now she isn't an option for him, but that's because of her decision, not his choice. What if she wants to get together again? What will he do? Maybe he has gotten over her. That could easily be the case too. How long has it been since their breakup? In any event, you're not being insecure. He didn't initiate the breakup, and he still calls her the right person, not you. Insecure, he told you to your face that his girlfriend was a better choice. The right woman at the wrong time is literally just saying it's the right woman. If she were in town today, he'd be with her. If he had balls, he'd have left to be with her. If he moved on and loved you more, he'd be saying, thank F we broke up when she left town, or I'd never have met you. Who is the right woman? Not the a-hole, he's an idiot. Opie responds to some comments. Someone says, many people have the one that got away. That shouldn't in any way affect their love or feelings for those in their lives in the present. Opie says, the problem is he verbalized that his ex was the right person for him to others and to his own partner. We are all allowed to have private feelings about who we thought we could have ended up with. In my case, I had a serious relationship too, and it also ended because of external factors, and I didn't want us to break up then. Even I thought they were the right person for me, so to speak, but I am glad we separated because nothing trumps the feeling of gratitude of being with your current partner. The matter is, does he feel grateful looking back that he is no longer with her because he's with me? Because that's the only thing I care about at this point. I want alignment here. If he isn't glad he broke up with her, then it's a no-go for me. What do you mean by that? Him not being glad is a no-go? Well, you can be perfectly happy about a heartbreak you experienced in the past because a much better person came along. Speaking in hindsight, of course. I may not be happy when I was experiencing the heartbreak, but I'm now happy that I experienced the heartbreak in the past because I found a better partner in my present because of that. Time will tell if I really want to be with him given the shaky grounds here. You can be happy about sad events in the past if that led to much better outcomes. For example, you can be happy your dream company turned you down from a job because you found something even bigger and better, which you wouldn't have got had you not gone through the heartbreak of being rejected from that job. You can be happy that you got cheated on in the past because it saved you from building a life with that person. You can be happy you broke up with that boyfriend who you dated for 5 years and didn't propose to you because being in that relationship kept you from finding your husband. This isn't about being happy in the sense that you're going all out partying throughout as you're experiencing heartbreak, but making peace with the fact and knowing in your heart that you will always choose the present if given the choice to what reality you get to have. Someone says, rom-coms where he winds up with the ex are based on less. You deserve to be his only choice. If we are really talking about rom-coms, all I want is that if he sees himself in the third perspective, he should want to ship himself with me and not his exes. Like, not even say I ship myself with both A and B because both relationships have different strengths, etc. I don't want him to entertain any other girl in mind, even in that sense. Does that make sense? Another commenter says, 100%. I also believe that they wouldn't have worked out. They let each other go because something was missing, or they would have fought to stay together. Now does he know that? I don't know. Opie replies, that is a very interesting way to think. He made it clear to me that he won't do long distance because he can't do it, and if I were to move away, he'd break up with me likely, just the way he and his ex broke up. If, let's say, the right woman came in his life, would she change this condition of his? Someone says, unsure of the context of him telling others, but he only told you because you asked him. Would you have rather had him lie? Opie says, I believe I did right by myself by asking him to confirm what he said, because what he said isn't inappropriate when verbalized to his own partner, judging by the cavalier attitude he had. What matters the most is what he feels truly about me and what happened in his life. Maybe she's a nice girl who he once knew, but that's all she is to him now. And is he happy he is no longer with her because he gets to be with me as a consequence of that breakup? I doubt he feels that way. Another commenter says, it isn't a competition. He can say he wished they could have worked out while being glad he ended up with you. Feelings are complex. Look at it this way. What if instead of them breaking up, she died? You wouldn't expect him to be glad that she died just because he's happy to end up with you. Unless he is saying he wants her back now, then it shouldn't be an issue. Opie says, I don't prefer dating a widower for the same reasons. I don't think it's appropriate for him to wish that they worked out. And more on that. I feel that dating a widowed person comes with many challenges, blurring and bending of many rules that are applicable in normal relationships, such as keeping photos, mementos, constantly talking about the late partner, etc., and those things make me uncomfortable. It's awful to wish that you're happy they died, and that's exactly the reason I stay away from dating people with that kind of baggage. I don't expect these people to wish they are happy their partner died, and I shouldn't, but I can always wish someone with living exes to wish they are content with the fact their previous relationships ended, and that those relationships ending are ultimately a good thing because those endings allowed him to find me. Someone says, you need therapy because you're so insecure and trying to dictate how he feels. Opie replies, I can't control what he feels, but I can control who I choose to be with. That is why I made this post, to use it as a sounding board as to whether him and I have the same feelings about each other. I have no intentions of changing his feelings, just exploring what matters to me and assessing whether he feels the same way, and decide whether to break up to continue. Yeah, honestly, Opie kind of mentioned it too, but people are allowed to have these feelings about, other people or maybe regrets about their past relationships, but mentioning it to the other partner is probably a no-go. I think most people probably think about the what-ifs in their past relationships all the time, but there's never any intention to act on it. I don't think, at least. What do you guys think? Let me know. Okay, let's go to an update. Hi guys, thanks for everyone who participated here. I'd already made up my mind about the relationship, however just wanted to use Reddit as a sounding board to confirm what most people think, and most of you agree with me, so I felt secure in my decision. He and I had a talk. It was clear that we are not aligned in the sense of how we feel about past relationships ending. I asked him whether he thinks that things ending with his ex is a good thing, ultimately in hindsight, because that allowed him to find me. He disagreed with me, and yet said he is happy he has me and loves me, but can't admit he is grateful for his past relationship ending. I just can't reconcile the two statements. It's too contradictory, and I find it will eat away at me if I stay in this relationship. We broke up. Like I said, I don't condemn him for how he feels. I simply think he isn't the man for me. Maybe he needs a girl who can understand him, and probably has a history of being with someone she regrets leaving too. Anyway, some people tried to trick me into thinking I'm the insecure one when I ironically was the one who proposed that first, but I remembered what my therapist said about boundaries and feelings. They are not right or wrong, they are personal to each person and each relationship, and if they work for two people, why should anyone outside of you two have the right to comment on that? Condescending therapy to anyone is a bad thing, because one of the most important reminders in therapy is you're there to figure out your own needs and feelings, rather than accept something that's unacceptable to you. My boundaries and feelings with the right person for me will clearly not harm anyone, as I have no intent to change anyone's feelings or personality. I will walk away. So yes, I conclude I'm not insecure, I'm just a person with differing needs in a relationship who needs to find someone whose values align with mine. I'm not looking for a virgin or anything. I've had enough experience with heartbreak myself. I just want someone who only prefers to be with me regardless of how meaningful their past relationships were, and I'll give them the same. Okay guys, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, pretty sound conclusion for OP to come to there. And yeah, sounds like that guy's got plenty of baggage and things that he needs to figure out himself before he jumps into another relationship. Okay, give me your thoughts about that one, and we'll jump to another story. Okay, well, on the same subreddit, this one was written by user Revengeance, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for not kicking my friends out of my house when my nephews came over? I, 26 female, had this happen yesterday, and so far my family keeps saying I'm in the wrong. So I was spending my first Saturday off in weeks, planning an outing with my friends, but at the last minute my sister asked if I could babysit my twin 9-year-old nephews, since her mother-in-law was having a medical emergency and they had to go to the hospital. I agreed because I know her mother-in-law has heart issues, she's already had a pacemaker put in. So I cancelled my plans and my brother-in-law brought the kids over. Since some of my friends were already over, they helped me watch my nephews and we did some family-friendly activities like watch Scooby-Doo, order pizza and play around with my child-safe face paints along with some Mario games. It wasn't the weekend I planned, but it was fun and my nephews and friends enjoyed themselves too. Thankfully, my friends have met the twins before at events I've invited them to, so I didn't think it was an issue that I didn't chase them out of my home the moment the boys were dropped off. When my brother-in-law and sister came later that night to pick up the kids, they were surprised to see my friends there, and my brother-in-law asked if they just came back. I explained they didn't, and that we just made a day of taking care of the kids. They both gave me looks and took the kids home. Me and my friends pulled out the wine and some ice cream and decided to watch horror movies. Midway through, I got a text from my sister demanding to know why I let strangers around her children without letting her know. I told her she dropped the kids on me last minute, and she knows the 4 who had come over today, and that 2 of them live at least an hour away from us, so sending them back would have been rude. My brother-in-law also messaged me saying he felt uncomfortable that I allowed strange women to touch his children. They literally know my friends' husbands and wives. I don't get why they're making a big deal about it, but today I woke up to more messages of how I endangered the kids by having them around strangers, and worse, alcohol in their house. We got drunk and posted pictures around midnight, I guess. I don't remember much beyond the Insta post. Most of our relatives are saying I prioritised my friends over my nephew's safety, and I'm confused as frick. The only one on my side is weirdly my sister's mother-in-law, who turns out never was at the hospital, so I don't even know where my sister and brother-in-law were all day yesterday. I don't know, the twins were dropped off on me at the last second. My friends are known by the family. We never drank or did anything adult until after the kids went home. So did I seriously F up here? I'm so confused. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, the fact that they lied about the mother-in-law's medical emergency, I mean, that's a pretty big indictment on them. I don't think they're in any position to get mad at OP here. Let's go to the comments. Your sister's mother-in-law is on your side because she knows your sister lied to you about a medical emergency. I wouldn't be surprised if your brother-in-law is running an offense to distract from their lies. Now your family are focused on what you did when babysitting and not your sister's lies and leaving her kids with you in the first place. Simple solution, they shouldn't ask you to babysit your nephews again, since you did such a poor job in their opinion. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You did them a favour, and you didn't have the kids in a dangerous situation. You sacrificed your night, and your friends were kind enough to help make it fun for the boys. Next time, tell them one of them will have to stay and watch their own kids, or let them pay a professional to do it. Not the a-hole. If you're trusted to look after their kids, then I'd have thought you'd be trusted not to have friends who are likely to endanger children. Have you let them know that you know they lied about going to the hospital? Opie replies, Not yet. I'm meeting up with my sister mother-in-law because she says she thinks she knows where they were. Not the a-hole, and I'd forward screenshots of those messages to said friends and tell them that apparently they are dangerous to children so they could all have a laugh over it. I'd fully understand if it was friends your family didn't know, but as you've said, they do know them, and frankly, if I'm trusting kids to my sibling, I'm also trusting that said sibling can be trusted to vouch for other people that might be around the house. If I didn't trust a sibling's judgment like that, I wouldn't have them watch kids in the first place. And the alcohol thing is just the cherry on top of the icing of the cake. Do they really think you were exposing the kids to alcohol? You specifically kept it packed away until after they left. It's like uppity drama mums being butthurt because they saw a teacher having a drink at a restaurant on a Friday night. Buddy, your fam needs a reality check. Badly. Yeah, I wonder what they could have been doing. Let's go to the update. So, people wanted an update on what happened after I spoke to my sister's mother-in-law and basically had to force the truth out of my sister and brother-in-law by threatening to call their parents. And well, the reason they wanted me to babysit was extremely stupid. So let me just give you guys a little info on my sister and brother-in-law. Before they had the twins, they were into the swingers scene, and after they were born, they stopped, or that's what they told everyone. Turns out, once the twins were old enough to be left alone, they would have mother-in-law babysit while they went off to the clubs. She figured it out and refused to babysit anymore, so they moved on to our parents, who also apparently said the same thing. They also threatened to stop helping them pay the mortgage on their house if they didn't start being better parents. So that left me. Apparently they've used me to watch the twins to go out with couples before, but this time was a last-minute date they had, so they lied about mother-in-law's health. The thing that started all this was due to one of our aunts seeing them that day with the other couple, and they were afraid of this getting back to me or to our parents, who already told them they'd stop helping them with their mortgage if they kept up their swingers lifestyle while the twins were still little. So when they saw me posting pictures later that night, they decided to lie and say that I invited people over after I agreed to watch the twins for the week so that they could have a Valentine's child-free week and spread this through the grapevine. They hoped that people would be too busy being furious at me for being an irresponsible aunt, enough that our aunt would be too busy with the family drama to remember what she saw that day. So yep, this was the BS they pulled on me. Mother-in-law was with me when I told my parents, who were livid, that my sister lied to them. Parents are telling the rest of our relatives through family chat what happened. They're going to talk to my sister and brother-in-law later, so I have no idea how that's going to go. But yep, apparently they made up this whole lie just to cover up the fact that they went out with another couple and dumped the twins on me for it. So yeah, not the craziest update I've seen here, so sorry about that, but thought I'd let you guys know. I don't care that they're swingers, I'm just annoyed that they lied to me to get me to watch their nephews. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, not sure about that comment that says it's not the craziest update. I definitely didn't see that coming. Did you? Like swingers? Really? Let's read a couple more comments to wrap this one up. I really don't understand why everyone knew about their sex life. I've had experiences with people like Opie is going through. It's so upsetting. Then to find out in her case it's an attempt to cover up their swinging. Really stupid, because they made a big thing of it when it could have been handled a bit more privately had they handled it responsibly. I think it's relevant that they're active swingers with 9-year-old twins. The family already knew about their lifestyle and are seemingly okay with it. If they were dumping the kids so often on the grandparents that there is a legitimate concern about their quality of parenting, it's totally fair for the grandparents to withhold funds. The kids are in 3rd and 4th grade. They're not unaware of what is happening. If they keep getting dumped with relatives over and over again because their parents want to go clubbing, they're going to notice. Kids know when you don't want to spend time with them. Reddit is littered full of people who hated growing up with poly parents. The problem is always the same. They were never prioritized by their parents. Someone else always mattered more. Juggling multiple partners and multiple sex lives is time-consuming. I feel bad for OP, but I feel awful for those kids. Their parents suck. Okie dokie folks, what are your thoughts about that one? Let me know in the comments. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.